What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another show. Hope everybody gets a chance to tune in. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. So let me start sharing some links while everybody trickles in here. Can't believe last week I gave out the wrong damn. I gave the previous link for the show prior, so a lot of people got last week shared. Sorry about that. It's like last week was a total clusterfuck for me. I don't know what the hell was going on. I wasn't doing anything right. Hell, logged onto the stream without being on the desktop. Didn't share it till late. Remember that? Didn't get to share it until late. And then when I finally did share it, I shared the weeks prior. Man, it was just, it snowballed. And I just kept getting worse and worse. I should have stopped by the head there. But we'll get it. Growing pains, learning, starting to get old. Doing stupid shit. It's like people do. So miss not having the shit show last night. Don't anybody ask me about that because I have no idea of everything that's going on. I got about half of it. I've been busy this week and I haven't had a chance to talk to Phil Billy. So I did hear a little bit about some issues about things that were said backstage. So, but I don't know much about that. That's for another discussion, another time, another. Should be able to get one more in. What's going on, Curtis? What's up, Mudflap? What's going on, Moonshine? 580. What's up, Clint? Clint's on time tonight. I'm gonna be at Farm to Bottle this weekend. You know, if Philbilly's having a get together, I'll be there as long as I'm invited. I might even go if I'm not. But yeah, I'll be there. Is everybody going to Farm to Bottle? Let me get these links shared, and then we'll talk about that. Oh, like what the hell? Yeah, I'm starting to get old to do stupid shit. Bear with me. I can't see y'all's comments right now, so till I get all these links shared. All right, I hate this dead air. Let me get this shit posted. I hate sitting here with dead air in it. That's one good thing about having a host. They can talk during the dead air time while you're doing other things. But bad thing about having hosts, eventually, if you want to do something else, it's always the parting. It's like going into business with family members and stuff. It's just not a good idea. Never is. Or best friends going into business and stuff. It's just, something, just doesn't work out. Want to go a different way, and it ends up, tough. So that's why I do it myself. That way I don't have to deal with all that and have arguments and disagreements and stuff. And it's a lot better. Do miss old Roger, though. He's a great guy. I think he thought there was some kind of animosity, but I just wanted to go the educational route. We talked about that before I went on with him and Mark. I always wanted to do this route, but just couldn't. And so when it was time to, And I like old Roger. He's a good guy. And Mark, both of them great guys. Damn it. Well, I'll try to post that later. All right. Now we got it shared out. Let me see. What's going on, Michael? At the Alabama-Florida border. Yeah, man. They were supposed to do a festival this year. I think Alfredo and Mark were working on it, and I don't know if they're going to have it this fall still, or what the situation is on it. But they were going to have that in Florida. I guess they still are. I don't know when it's supposed to be scheduled for, but yeah, they. Let me get this one message out. My cousin texted me. I popped up all my links to share, and she'd sent a message, so it was on every one of them. Man, it slowed it down big time. So if I stop and text with her, I might have to several times during the show here. So she's in town. They're camping at the horse park, so we're gonna go visit with them before we go to Farm to Bottle. Sitting at the lake, man, that sounds nice. Well, I hope you catch some with those damn chicken livers that we hate. Bait. That's funny as shit. Somebody said that. $30 each for a 35-gallon whiskey barrel. Man, that's nice. That's a decent sized barrel, man. I think you're going to have to be in that barrel like a year and a half, 2 years, probably. I know the 53s, they say about 3 or 4 years. So I guess a 35, you're going to be at about a year and a half to 2 easy. The 15s, I think they say about a year and a half. The 5 is probably 8 months to a year or so, and then the small ones, it's months if until they get real small, and then it can be weeks. But the smaller the barrel, the more alcohol you have in contact with the actual barrel itself. So in the bigger barrels, unless they're done by ratio, and then if they're ratioed like I know the bad mo barrels and the sand mo barrels, and there's some other company that has them out. I know those are designed with just the barrel head on the front, and they're more surface area equivalent to like a large barrel 53. So it takes a couple few years for those. But like just the smaller wood barrels that you get, like a gallon and 2 quarts, man, those things don't take long at all. Those do real quick. But it's not saying it does it as well as a big barrel in that shorter period of time. It just takes less time to get that level of oakness before you actually start over oaking. So it's easy to over oak when you age, especially if you get a lot of wood in there. I know, like if you char, white oak and just drop it into a jar, and you got like a stave and it's taking up almost half the jar. I mean, we're talking a couple of weeks and you're ready, because it really puts out a lot of tannins, and you don't want to over oak it, because then it just tastes like campfire, and wood and campfire. You don't really get any notes from the wood at all. And that's what, yeah, dead air, man. That's killer on broadcasting. I know, man. 5 gallons are awesome. 5 gallons are really nice. I think I'm going to pick up some fives. I got a couple of 15s, and it's going to take a bit for me to fill those up with my small setup. But the fives will be pretty easy to fill up, and won't take as long. Won't have to sit there, and it's going to be tough, man. It's tough aging. If you have a lot, I guess it's not so tough aging it. You have plenty to drink, but if you go in there and the only thing you got's in those barrels, you start looking at them awful hard, Doing a 3 grain run, awesome. On jar one, man, that's awesome. They're getting ready to pitch them heads. That's killer. 3 grains. So what we got? Let me guess: corn, barley, and rye. That's just a guess. What's going on, Ty? Good to see you, brother. Just got back home, huh? How did I get into moonshine? Well, I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, and it was a pretty common thing there for there was a lot of moonshine being made. It was during the 60s and 70s, and Prohibition was still in the Eastern Kentucky. That we still didn't sell alcohol, so it was considered a dry county, dry city, and didn't really get wet until I was old enough to drink. If I can imagine that. Um, but growing up, we'd ride our bicycles to the bootleggers and get beer and whiskey anytime we wanted it. Hell, we were drinking at a very young age. Not a good thing. Not for you youngsters out there. Don't do it. But and we experimented, and grew a little weed here and there. It is just, it's a different time and a different life. There was really nothing to do there for kids. We just rode our motorcycles and did a lot of things that kids shouldn't be doing. But so we after on a Firefox book and learned how to make moonshine looking at the Firefox book, and of course listening to shiners talk around the area and all that stuff. So um, so we got into it, made this little pressure cooker steel, this little thin copper tubing, and fashioned us together a little steel that made probably the worst moonshine ever. But we still loved it, and it was awesome. Best thing ever. Probably the worst shine you could ever drink. Scorched it the first few times, first 5 or 6 times, scorched the shit out of it. Yeah, we didn't care. We're drinking anyway. What's up, Scott? What's going on in North Carolina? North Kakalaki. That's an awesome place, man. Love going to North Carolina. A lot of good memories there. It's not as bad as South Carolina, man. In South Carolina, man, they hard on us moonshiners there. That ALE is tough on us over there. They are for sure. He's gonna catch a big old mess of catfish. You wait and see. What's going on, Alvin? Good to see you, brother. What's up, Tim? Good to see you, man. So it looks like we got a pretty good crowd in here tonight. Hopefully, got some questions. We get done saying hey to everybody. Just a buzz. Well, I mean, if you don't catch nothing else, you can catch you a buzz. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. Going on down in Georgia. Hope everybody down there is doing well. Is it cooling off down there like it is up here in Kentucky? Man, it's been nice. And I'll tell you, it's like, I don't know what happened, man. We started out spring very short, got hot as hell. And it's like, man, I can't wait for it to cool off a little bit, so I can ferment outside. It was in the 90s, upper 90s. And when it gets that hot, my barrels get real hot, they get a little sun on them. They kill the yeast. And so I'm like, man, I can't wait for it to get, in the 80s and 70s. It's like, man, overnight, just in like less than a week, it went from 90s during the day to, mid 80s at night to, 40 some degrees at night and 60 during the day. It's crazy. What's going on down there in Alabama? Yeah, we got a few people in here from that area. I guess if you tuned in earlier, you'd seen somebody's asking about when we're going to have a festival down there in Alabama. Who was that? Oh, Clint was asking if we were going to have one down there. Yeah, we need to. I know we go to. I was down in Ozark Country, Arkansas last year. They had their first annual Moonshine Festival down there. We hope to go back down there this year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not. Far in the bottle this coming weekend, and then I guess Beattyville the weekend after that. And then I know OBX one down there. That's in North Carolina, I think. OBX. Oh, wait a minute. That might be South Carolina. Anyway, if you Carolinas, that's not too far to drive if you're in North Carolina. But yeah, there should be one. OBX, I think that's Outer Banks. And I think that might be South Carolina. I might be mistaken. I'll find out, though. It's on the Moonshine Militia page. So we'll definitely find out about that. Or somebody will chime in that knows. I've not been. I wanted to go last year. Amanda and Jay were going to go last year too, and I wanted to go and meet with them, and I wasn't able to make it. And I'm not sure if they were able to or not last year, but yeah, it's a good celebration over there for sure. Banger, hell yeah, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I typed for my job for a long time. I didn't take typing in high school, so I still hunt and peck, and that's why I got to look at the keyboard when I type. I'm pretty fast for somebody that doesn't type like you're supposed to, but yeah, I miss. I have to backspace a lot. Yeah, Southern Alabama. Yeah, we got a lot of Alabama tide down up in here. No, that's what's for dinner, man. I'd eat that chicken breast, throw them catfish away is what I'd do. Hell no. Say get you some damn gizzards and livers. That's all they're worth. Hell yeah. I tell you now, I know it's easy to do, and a lot of people do it. They fall into that high proof thing, but I tell you, some of the best shine I've ever made came off at about 130 or 40, and it has a lot of flavor. When you get that extra water in there that lowers it, the proof is just depending on how much water is getting retained by the system and how much alcohol is making it out. So, the more water that's coming out, the lower the proof's going to be, of course, and then the less that's, coming out, more that's retained. That's why when you run a thumper, they call it a doubler, but it's just leaving water behind, and that's how you're increasing proof. Is just you're redistilling, but you're technically just leaving more water behind. So, but that water is also where a lot of the flavors carried. So sometimes you don't want to get the high proof. Sometimes some of the best liquor you drink comes off between 130, 40, and maybe even 120, to 40. So in that range, if you can hit that range for like a whiskey or a brandy or something that's real flavorful, that's a sweet spot. Now I know that you're pretty much at the mercy of whatever the system puts out. Sometimes you can make some changes to the system though to get it to produce lower, and people are like, wait a minute, I worked my ass off to get it to make higher proof. I wanted higher proof. But seriously, sometimes taking that thumper off, man. I remember the first time we ran with a thumper and ran a thumper for a long time, and I kept getting smearing. I called it blending. I didn't know that there was a technical term called smearing. When I was young, but so I designed a bypass, to bypass the thumper and stuff, and then started running more and more without the thumper. Of course, when I started, I didn't use a thumper, and started kind of got away from using a thumper. I tend to use infusers. I like to use the infuser more now than a thumper. Because I always got the smearing before I did the bypass, and now I've got the inline infuser. Man, it's good. It comes off at about 140 to 50. I can control the proof and dial it in, and I get a lot more flavor on my brandies that way with the infusers and it coming off at a lower proof. So, but that's awesome. 165. It's not 180s, which is taking out all the flavor. So, it's a good thing though for liquor and to get a good volume and high proof means you're going to end up with with some pretty good liquor. Once you proof it down, you'll be pretty happy with it. But yeah, try to, if you run a thumper, take it off and see how it works, or best way to do it is just make two identical mashes or just take them out of the same batch, right? Just make two in the same bat, get your big 55 drum and just do a double batch in it and do one batch one way with the thumper and do a batch without the thumper and see what the proof and how it comes off and because it's the same mash, so taste wise and all that, everything is going in the same, so you'll be able to judge the difference in what comes out, and you'll be surprised. I think the thumper is really an overused tool, and I think the infusers are probably underutilized. I think there's going to be a lot more people using infusers. Once you use it, it's like, wow, that's a lot more flavor. It brings flavor forward, and it's basically just forcing the distillate up through fruit juices, concentrated fruit juices, hoping that the water that's with it, will pick up some of those flavonoids, phenols, and all that good stuff, and carry them forward. And that's really, those bond to water a lot better than they'll bond to alcohol. So if you can get that proof down and use an infuser, it'll carry a lot of flavor forward. And people say, well, that's great for brandies, but it doesn't help much for cream, for corn liquor. But if you put cream corn in there, puree it down, put it in a blender, get all your corn chunks out, and puree it down real good and put that in your infuser, maybe with a little bit of tails, man, you'll see it'll carry that corn flavor forward, man. It's so good. It's really good. It makes some of the best corn liquor ever. What's going on in North Kakalaki, Bahama, North Kakalaki? Awesome. 5 gallons. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say 35. That's a good sized barrel, especially for that price. I'm like, damn. I've been talking to Michael after the show. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, 5 gallon barrels are perfect size, man. And there's something you can handle. You can carry those 15s. They're pretty heavy alone. They're not bad, but you fill one up, you're adding what, 6 times 15, 70, 100 pounds plus the weight of the barrel. And they get heavy. You out here, Mud Flats? All right, brother. Hope you catch a few. Holler at us when you catch one. Yeah, it is, man. You got to make more liquor, man. You got to have some with some staves in it or something. Because if you don't have anything and you just got those barrels in there, and it's like, damn, I wish I had a drink. And it's like, well, either I go to the store and buy some. I don't have any mash ready, but there is some in that barrel. It's hard not to say, well, I just do a little taste, just a little bit. Next thing you know, your barrel's empty. What's going on, James? Good to see you, brother. Weeded white corn. Oh man, that sounds good. I bet that'll be good and sweet. But try that next time. Put a little cream corn, and it doesn't. You don't have to get good. Good. Get some that's got past its expiration date or something. It's not. It's basically not an expiration date. It's a best by date. But sometimes you can get secondhand stores or stores that are selling it right at the expiration, or maybe if it's past, you can, if you know somebody that owns a store, they can tell you, well, yeah, we'll set it next to the dumpster to keep you from diving, but so yeah, but cream corn works great if you can get that cheap stuff in the big cans. Works great. Puree it. It makes some of the best infusion for corn liquor. It's so good. What's going on, Chris? What's up, brother? Well, it's all over North Carolina. It shouldn't be too hard. Go to a festival and hang out. You'll find some. There's some of the stores, a lot of people say, oh, that store bought stuff ain't no good. I know that a lot of people made moonshine illegally. They went legit. They used the same recipe, the same steel. They got it, got the numbers put on the steel, got it licensed and everything. So they do everything just like they did before. But all of a sudden, just because it's, tax paid and for selling a store, it's not the same. I mean, technically, a lot of people consider moonshine anything that you make that's tax isn't paid on, and I guess that's a pretty good description because a lot of people make rum and call it moonshine. A lot of people make vodka and call it moonshine. A lot of people make corn liquor and call it moonshine. A lot of people make brandies and call it moonshine. It's kind of a catch-all term. So, but some of the store bought stuff isn't so bad. But the fact that it's you know store bought takes away some of the nostalgia, I guess. Yeah, yeah, it was a small town, man. Population 500. Hee haw. Um, yeah, I guess had a small town, 5,000. I think was population. I say 500. That's 5,000. I think Pikeville. I think my graduating class might have been 70, 60, 70 people. My graduating class. Yeah, them old Firefox books. They didn't have a lot. They taught you the basics and maybe had a recipe or two in it, but it was enough to get you going. And then of course I had biology and then later chemistry, and in chemistry we had an excellent teacher and taught us about it. I guess she knew where she was, where she was working, and taught a little bit about it, and um, did some experiments and stuff. But it was yeah, it was a great experience learning how to do it. What's going on, Dutch? What's going on, Matt? From New Zealand. Yeah, we get a few on here from New Zealand and Australia. Got some from England. I think we had one from Iceland maybe a time or two jump in here. What's going on, Jim? Yeah, that's you play poker in the front and liquor in the rear, right? Backdoor liquors. Rerun an apple mash. Now, are you saying like just have apple mash and then strain it all out and then use the pulps and stuff that's left to add sugar and water to and run it again? No, I'm not done that. Fruit, I mean, you definitely could, and there probably is, but I use pectic enzymes on mine, and they work so well. There's really not much left of the pulp and stuff when I'm done. Mostly just the damn skins, and I get those out, because they're kind of bitter. So I fish those out. But I've never tried to run it twice. I'd say it'd be fine. I'm sure there's still got to be some flavor left in that pulp if you've got some. Um, if you don't use pectic enzymes, especially. But it's like brandies. They typically, you don't rerun fruit a lot because they're a lot. I think they're a lot more susceptible to funguses and stuff than like some of the grains, are with the. But I think if you kept it in back set and kept the acid, pretty low in it and kept everything at bay, I think you'd be fine running it a couple of times, get some more flavor out of it. But I just use those pectic enzymes, man, and it's unbelievable how well they work. It's I'll have applesauce one day and apple juice the next. It's crazy. It's amazing how well those things do. Where did I just hear where am I? Oh, I hear my phone coming out of the. All right, let me mute this here. I thought I had it muted. I'm like, man, where am I? Y'all hearing that? Oh, I was tripping. But I would say that if you don't use the pectic enzymes and you've got like an applesauce, just a dry apple pulp, I'd say you could definitely rehydrate it with some sugar water and ferment it again and get some out of it. Yeah, I wouldn't expect a lot of apple carryover, especially on the second run, but certainly won't hurt, unless it gets that fungus. But if you use the pectic enzymes, man, it'll turn applesauce into cider in no time, man. It'll be thin, thin, thin. And if you don't use enough, you might have a little pulp left over, but it does a number on it. But yeah, if you had pulp and you didn't use pectic enzymes, I'd say it'd be fine to run it again. You might end up getting a little fungus. Let us know how it works out though. What's going on, Gordon? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, it's actually very easy making it. Wine, especially the wine, the beer is difficult. Beer is a little bit more difficult to make than the wine. Wine's easy to make. If you like wine, Lord, you can make some really good wine with just you can get grape juice, Welch's grape juice. They've got some excellent. I put my recipe book up. I had it out Wednesday, but they make a lot of excellent recipes just for a Welch's grape juice. You can make some good wine. Now I'm sure there's some wine connoisseurs out there that are going to be like, seriously, you're telling these people they can make good wine with Welch's? It's subjective, right? It's not going to be a Dom Perignon. It's not going to be some big, you know, it's just not. But it makes good wine. If you like, wine, you like drinking wine, and if you do it properly, it can make decent wine. It's not going to be a top shelf thing, but you can make good wine. Awesome. I hope it works out well, brother. All right. Have a Shine Fest in Dothan, 45 minutes to Panama City Beach. Cool. Yeah, I think my fiance's daughter talking about moving to Pensacola, so that means we'll be in that area a little bit. Um, Great bass fishing, awesome. Yeah, all over those lakes in Florida. I need to do some fishing, man. I tell you, there's no mud flats fish getting to me. I got to get out and fish. Of course, deer hunting season's coming, and Barn to Bottle comes up, and it's like, man, come on, you're out in the middle of deer season or bow season. Yeah, yeah. I have to look down and type, and I'm kind of at an angle. It's over here, and I have to. It's kind of in my gaming stance here. I got to have my game mouse here, and I do a lot of gaming. So what's going on down there in Georgia? We got you down in Georgia and Alabama and Florida, North and South Carolina, a lot of Tennessee, and a lot of the South. We all like moonshine, don't we? Hell yeah. Now, this ain't your first run, is it, Brian? Oh yeah, yeah, definitely put them tails in there. Now, next time, try you some cream corn, puree it up, put it in a blender, and just blend it up real good. The reason I say that is so when you put it down in there, corn doesn't get stuck in the pipe and kind of clog things up. So I like keeping it thinned out. But yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm just a little bit slow. I get a little bit behind Nancy, so be patient with me. And anybody commenting, if I haven't said anything to you yet, bear with me. I'm trying to answer every comment as I go, unless it's talking to somebody else. Um, but yeah, I'll get to you. I can see your messages, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. I promise. And I'll highlight it. And if I miss it, and if you see me commenting on something after what you wrote, ask again, because sometimes I'll scroll by it, and I don't mean to. Second gin, awesome. Nothing like some good old sour mash, right? A lot of people do that, and it's good. And it's just place to catch water too. Not just stuff that's puking over, but it'll retain a little bit of water and help proof it up if you need that. Where can someone get a full assortment of silicone beverage gaskets? Apparently, I was running mine too fast, so the gaskets took a shit. It's the gaskets, brother, and that's one of the worst things about the Weber 3-pot steels is the gaskets. I think Phil might have them. If he doesn't, he can get them. I know they got them also on Amazon. Somebody posted in the militia page, if you can ask, somebody posted a link to it, and they have some. I've also got a friend that replaced some, and I'll ask him later and see if I can. I'll make a note to post that in the militia. Let me put. I will. I'll talk to Phil and I'll have him post a link to his page and stuff. It'll take you right to those gaskets. But yeah, that's one of the worst things about the Weber 3-pots is the gaskets crack. Everybody wants to tighten up the fittings good and tight, and they're not designed for good and tight. And if you hand tighten them, half the time they leak. So you want to tighten them up a little bit more so they won't leak, and then they break. So they're shit. Um, that's one of the worst things about it. Other than that, and the condensers. So when you get that condenser, get it off the top of the pot where they have you sitting it. So pop it away from the pot, and also increase the size of it. It's undersized, grossly undersized, and it's really tough to keep that water good and cool enough. Because I mean, generally 65 to 75 degree is plenty to cool with, but that unit had such a small condenser it overheat. Excuse me. I have to have a drink. Maybe it's the wrong kind of drink. It's easy to overheat because it's so damn small. I get rid of that bug in my throat. So the condensers are so small, it's real easy to overheat them. So you have to get you, well, you have a little water bottle. Anyway, you get you one of them little water, little water bottle, 12, 16-ounce water bottles, and freeze it, and then just set it right down in the middle of it until you can make it bigger. But definitely increase the size of that condenser for sure. But we'll get you a link. If you're not, join the Moonshine Militia on Facebook. I'm not sure if you're in there, Robert or Jonathan, but we'll post that up and get a link for those gaskets. Now, if you're talking about the football steel with that big round gasket that fits the lid, I don't know, brother. I've had people talk to Bever, and I don't even think they're going to put them out. So, may have to work on repair, but I do feel Billy does have communication with Bever, so we're definitely, working on trying to get those big gaskets too for those that fail on people. We may be limited to maybe 13, 18 and a half size or something, but we're going to try to get those. What's up? I don't drink a lot either. Small ones and the ones that go on the lid and the slobber box. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk now. The ones I'm talking about are the fitting ones that go on the fittings that when you tighten those down, I think they're plastic. They're actually, I think they're, what do they call that? It's Teflon, but it's actually a plastic Teflon. I understand. Yeah, and it's, the best way to avoid that, bite the bullet. That's why every time somebody I talk to, they say, I've been thinking about, and it is a good thing to do, for people to get in the hobby and then buy, a 5 or an 8 gallon, because it's not expensive. And, it's like, I don't know if they'll like it. I don't know if the liquor will come out good. Maybe everybody's just lying. It's really not that good. And, I'll try it and it'll suck. And, I've wasted all this money and stuff. And that's one of the reasons we're here, to try to make the hobby enjoyable for people and help them make better liquor. But by the same token, then they do make it and they're like, well, damn, I wish I'd have got a bigger still now, because this is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. It's a great hobby. I can spend my time doing this and make less money on the alcohol at the store, and it's just as good or better. So I wish I'd have gotten that 18 or that 13 at least, but getting into a keg still, 15 gallons, and those work real well too. And you don't have to worry about gaskets at all on those. So, they're real easy. Not so easy to clean. That was my biggest hang up with the kegs. But now, you get you a big 4-inch or 8-inch, 6-inch, whatever, ferrule welded onto it, and get down in there and scrub. They used to, when I used a keg still, I just have to take it to the car wash. I didn't own a pressure washer. I couldn't afford that, so I take it to the quarter wash. Put my quarter in and rinse that sucker out. And so that was how I cleaned it back then. But yeah, everybody wishes, when they get that small one after they get the bug, they're like, damn, I wish I'd have got that bigger one. But all's not lost. When you do get the bigger one, you can use the 8 for a thumper. So that works as well. Oh, you can get him hung over. What about a 250-gallon submarine pot? Damn, I know that's big, and I know you're gonna have to have a tote to mash in. If you got one that big, you're gonna have to go buy you a tote, and you're gonna have to get something really big to start boiling on a lot of water. And most people just use the submarine pot to actually boil your water in to make your mash. because it's, unless you just want to use a 20-gallon, pot, which is a pretty good size, crayfish boiling pot. It'd take a lot of boiling in that to do it. So most people just use that submarine to boil their water and pump it off or siphon it out of there once it's hot boiling, and steep, their corn in the barrels, and then drain the submarine and then put the mash in there after it's ready. But that's what you're going to have to do, and get you a big tote to mash in. They get you a big 250, 300-gallon tote, and you can mash into that. But that's real big, and if you've got one that big, I wouldn't talk about it too much because it raises some eyebrows. I'll be honest with you. When they see that a much, that's why it's a 25 gallon, right? You meant to say 25. That zero is a typo, but yeah, it generally, just keep it in the hobby level, and just say you got a 25, and he's just say I need a recipe for 25 gallons, and just multiply everything by 10, right? There you go. So what you do with that is you've got the bypass. If you got the one with the bypass valves on it, you shut everything off going into the jars, right? You got your flavor in the jars, everything's ready to go. So basically you're bypassing those jars and going straight to your condenser until you get to your hearts. And then once you get out of the head zone and you don't smell that acetone anymore, you talk about putting it on your hands and smelling it. I just rub it on my fingers and sniff it. But same thing. You want to do that to get it evaporating. So you get a large area, get it on your hands and do that rub, and then do that, and you get a good whiff of it, and while it's evaporating, and you can smell that acetone pretty strong, and the ethyl acetate's in it, and once you quit smelling those real strong, it's about time to flip the switch and start going through your infuser once you get into your hearts. But they say 50 milliliters per every gallon, So if you're running, 10 gallons, it'll be 500 milliliters, that you'll pull off. That's quite a bit, actually. That might be a little bit into your, high heart. So start after a jar. I'd say after 300 milliliters, maybe start smelling it and judging it a little different. But don't do the taste test, because once you get that acetone on your tongue, it's really hard to get off, and you'll feel like you're tasting it still after every drink, even when you get into the hearts. So I go by smell, and then what if you separate it into jars and just number your jars, you'll be able to go backwards. Start at your tails where it's tails, and then start tasting that, and then taste it each jar backwards, and then this doesn't taste bad, so that's tails. That's going to go in your next run, right? So here, keep tasting back, good. I can maybe taste a hint of that acetone. Then the next one, yeah, I can taste it in that. So you know where the heads are, and you haven't tainted your tongue until you got late in the taste game, right? So that's definitely the best way to do it. Is just put it in jars, and you can put it in smaller jars about when you think it's going to make the change. That way you don't waste so much, but once you get used to it, it'll come a lot easier for you once you get used to that smell. Awesome, brother. Now you didn't tell me what grains you got in there. I'm guessing corn, barley, and rye. Yeah, absolutely. And save a lot. They carry the big cans for cheap. It's not expired or bad, but they got the big cans cheap, and grocery stores like that, the discount groceries and stuff like that, they carry off brands, but they'll have big volumes. Costco, another good place to get a good size can cheap. Yeah, they want that stamp on there, don't they? Yes, corn liquor is a whiskey. I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm trying to answer these as quick as I can now. Let's see, 8:31 and I'm about 20 minutes behind, so bear with me. That might be bourbon. I think that's bourbon. To be a bourbon, it has to be at least 51% corn and has to go through, a new barrel and all that. I'm not sure if whiskey has that because there's a rye whiskey that doesn't have any corn at all. So I think that's bourbon that they have to have 51% corn and a new barrel. And there's some other stipulations. I used to think that it had to be 4 years, but somebody corrected me and said it was 2. Um, so might just Google the TTB rules on bourbon and whiskeys. Pretty sure whiskeys, though, it could be pretty much just about any damn thing, to be honest, as long as it's a grain. It depends on the rice, and you have to convert it. So you have to cook the rice, and rice isn't something I've done a lot with. So you want to find a decent recipe from somebody and go from that. I've not done a lot of rice at all. I've had some friends that's done the sake and the, what do they call it, the suchu, whatever. But you have to cook it. And you have to use amylase enzyme and glucanase enzymes on it, or you can use the yellow label angel yeast. And I think it has some of the enzymes that are built into some of the fungus that's used, maybe goji, that's used in that. So I would recommend just finding a good recipe for the soju. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, SOJU, or a good sake. Basically just make a sake and distill it. That's basically what you're doing. So generally what we do with grains, most of the grains, and I will pull up a chart here in a minute, see if it's got rice on it. It may. Generally we do about 2 to 2.5 pounds per gallon. But let me pull up this chart and see if it by chance is on there. Let me see. It might take me a second to find it, so bear with me. Just a second here. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if this gives me any idea of, okay, now it talks about your rice and about your temperatures here. So this is where this is the sophistication. So this is the zone before you denature the natural enzymes in the rice itself. I wouldn't worry as much about that as just getting the rice cooked properly, and either using the now with if you use the yellow label angel yeast, you can basically just mix your rice and water about 2.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds per gallon of water, and then just put your yellow label angel yeast in there with a little bit of nutrient and lower your pH a little bit and let it do its thing, and it'll convert the starches over into alcohol, and then you can go buy a hydrometer and use that. Now it's the triple scale hydrometer, not the proofing hydrometer, not the alkalometer, but the proofing hydrometer that will tell you how much sugars that you have leached out of that starch after that yellow label angel yeast does its thing. So it'll give you an indication of when it's done, because you can tell by where the hydrometer floats. So if it's down to dry and zero, that means you pretty much gotten all out of that you can. But the yellow label will take a little bit longer. If you want to do it the other way, you basically just cook your rice until it gelatinizes, and this is going to be probably at about 180 degrees. You can do about 180, just like grains, 180, 85, and then put the high temp amylase in there with it and thin it out, and then let it cool down to 100, and then add your glucanase, your glucoamylase, and it'll convert it all for you that way. But that yellow label, seems to be pretty much, I think it was designed to use with rice. So it should work pretty well. If you don't get a lot of alcohol production, next time cut back on the water, that you add to it. But I think about a gallon of water for every 2 pounds of rice should get you pretty close. And then if you want more alcohol, maybe next time add a little bit more rice to the mix, and it'll get a little more concentrated for you. But anything 1060, 1070 should be great, right? But yeah, rice is something I haven't worked a lot with, but I definitely want to, because it's something inexpensive and makes some good stuff. Good clean tasting stuff. Yeah, I think with the fruits, you're gonna risk running into some molds and stuff more so than what the grains do. But if you keep the acid low and keep it covered, and don't let air get to the fruit itself, and keep it covered to where it just CO2 in there mostly, it helps keep a lot of that at bay. But most people don't like using airlocks, and they don't like open. They like to open ferment, so it's going to be tougher if you do. But if you use that back set, the back set's very acidic, and it'll keep, the low acidity will keep a lot of that fungus at bay. But I don't know. It's not something that's practiced a lot, so I guess it's probably something. There's a good reason for it that a lot of people don't do that a lot. Now with like a dunder pit with your leftover rums and stuff, and using that's fine, because there's not, that you don't have that organic compound in there that's going to get that fungus like that. So with grains and that, it's probably not as susceptible to fungus as fruit. I know corn kind of is, but I think that acidity keeps the fungus away. Yeah, man, I was hearing my damn self. Got my headphones over there. Yeah, pectic enzymes. I really like using those with a lot of my fruits. It helps so much. You can mix those apples up and have applesauce, and the peaches up and have like a thick peach, sauce. And that shit's thick, thick. And it's like, man, how am I going to distill something like that? First time you do it, it's like, what the hell? But you add those pectic enzymes and wait a day or two, man. Next thing you go back and look, and it's like, wow, you'll be amazed. You will. If they're good, effective enzymes, and and they're not denatured, you will be amazed at how much it eats away. Yeah, Welch's is not that far behind. Welch's makes really good wine. I've done the Welch's wine. Look it up, Google it. They have a lot of recipes out there for it. Try to use the recipes that talk about adding the acid to the wine and using your Campton tablets or potassium metabisulfates. We talked a lot about that last week, and I think I accidentally shared the wrong link last week to all the groups. So I shared the last Saturday's link to Wednesday. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me Wednesday. I was all out of whack. I don't know, man. I got on here and I hadn't even put my camera on, and so we started out this here. Finally, after about 15 minutes of me talking to myself, I realized, hey, I hadn't done that. And about half an hour into the show, I realized I haven't even shared the damn link yet, man. So when I go to my page to get the link to share it, I get last last week's link, and I shared it. So yeah, there's not a lot of people able to see last Wednesday's show. I guess it's just going to be one of those lost archives. It's on the 101 page. I think that's the only page that it actually went to. That's because that's the page that I stream to directly. So I think that's the only page that it's on. Sorry. Yeah, the beverage stills. Now, the football stills, let me get you a picture, and that way you'll know which one to get. I mean, all of them are good. I'm not going to say the 3 pots are bad, but like the guy asking in before with the gaskets and stuff, they're shitty plastic gaskets. They're PTFE, they're Teflon gaskets, but and that's what I was trying to think of a minute ago. If you saw my mind sitting there, smoke coming out my ears, I was trying to think of PTFE, but I just have to keep going, and eventually it'll come to me. Just, I don't know. I'm getting old and forgetful and getting half senile, and who knows. But the 3 pots are fine once you get them lined out. Once you improve the plumbing, you're going to have to use bigger copper. Unless it's a 5 or an 8, then you're okay. But if you got one of the 13 or 18 3 pots, you really need to start looking into going with a 5/8 copper and a 5/8 worm. You can buy, and that way you'll have something big enough too in your worm. If you do a 5-gallon bucket worm with 5/8 and just do a tri-clamp fitting coming off that, or maybe even union compression fitting or something, you can graduate. You can take that and use it on a 20 or a 50 or whatever. It's good for a decent size steel. Now, you ain't gonna be putting it on the hundreds, but you'll be able to grow with it, right? But the 3 pots are fine once you get the plumbing lined out. Once the slobber box, once you get the down tube, down comber in that just right, helps. And then once you make a larger condenser, because really the condensers for them are the worst thing about them. Not the gaskets, it's the condenser. That's the worst thing about them. But they will make decent liquor, if you do everything right and use them, don't over tighten, and keep that damn condenser cold enough, because you have to keep it colder than you would like a normal bucket. So you have to replenish the shit out of it and keep it cold, colder than most would be normally, because it wants to get so hot so quick. But this one here, this here is your canister, and this is your condenser. It's called a canister condenser, and your water will go in the bottom and will come out the top here, and in this tube right here, this is where the liquor comes out. And the good thing about these is, no matter how fast the water is going in, it'll build up pressure in here, and then it'll kick it out. If you have a bucket or an open flake stand, you have to limit the amount of water flowing in to how much can flow out. So a lot of times, if you're making a bucket condenser, a 5 or 10-gallon bucket, or if you got a big bucket, put a larger outlet on the top than you have inlet on the bottom. That way you can run more cooler water quicker, and you can control your temperatures a little better that way too. Because if you need more water than what the bucket can hold, you're just going to have to start using ice bottles or 2 liters or milk jugs, whatever you got of water, ice water, or ice in. I make my jugs with ice, right? Fill it with water and then put it in the freezer. Make a milk jug with ice in it, or a 2-liter with ice. Those are great. You can reuse them until they eventually break, but don't fill them all the way up so they don't bust, and give the room, water room to expand. But this Faber steel works great. Um, you can take this off, and this is a 18 and a half. So this is a 2.5-inch ferrule. So you can get a reducer to go to 2, or you can get something to go to 2.5 to 3. 2.5 is an odd size, and you don't want it. I have to buy a lot of pipe and fittings in the 2.5 because they're more expensive. They're not as common as the 2 or 3. Most people just step down to 2 because it's plenty for an 18-gallon steel. And the same coming off this, you don't see it, but on the other side of this football, going into this canister, is also another 2.5-inch tri-clamp fitting. So you can get a football, and then you can get the 2.5 to 2 and just run a shotgun condenser off this, or a condenser in a bucket. But this condenser does okay, much better than the little teeny condensers that are on the 3 pots. So you definitely have to work on those. And I know I'm getting behind again, but good question. And a lot of people have that question that's watching that don't ask questions. That's why I like to really stress on these. And Philbilly carries about anything you need for these, except that fucking gasket going around the lid. We're going to work on that. We're going to try to get Beaver to make those, because they really need to be able to keep these things running. Good question. Yeah, they work great. Yeah, they work just fine. But there are, like with the 3 pots, there's some modifications you have to make. But for a stainless steel pot their size, you can't beat the value, because just shop around. Just shop around for just a stainless pot to boil shrimp in with a lid. See what that's going to cost you, So McDonald, I'm going to tear this up. McDonald, McDonald. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm a McDumbass, but I am. Anyway, well, got a lot of Georgia people in here tonight. That's awesome. I know they beat our ass in football every year. So does Alabama if they play us. It's tough being a Kentucky Wildcat fan, I tell you. Oh, Lord. Especially with basketball season, it's easy. You know, it's great to be a Kentucky fan during basketball season. But man, football season is so hard on us, especially us old football players. It's hard to watch them. But I hit that damn cap saying I don't even know it. I'll be typing, and I don't look at stuff I'm typing, right? I have to look at the typewriter. So I'll be halfway through, I'll be through a whole big paragraph and shit, and I'll look up and I'll see that half of it is all caps because instead of hitting A, I hit caps lock or some shit like that, which happens a lot. And I'm like, fuck it. I ain't going to erase all that shit just so I can be proper. So I know it's not yelling. I guess people consider that yelling, but we're pretty thick skinned in here. I'll tell you what, they're great for beginners and, intermediates alike. I mean, 18.5-gallon still is a pretty decent amount. And I'll tell you what, this little setup here, inside here, you can stuff this with some of that copper mesh I talk about. Because right here where these two go, there's 2.5-inch fitting, right? So you can roll up that copper and fit it in there, and you can pack this football with copper. And you'd be surprised what this little steel here puts out, man. It'll put out about 140 to 145, and it'll have a lot of good flavor. I'm telling you, for the money, I know not last year, but year before last on Black Friday, they sold 18.5-gallon steels for $150 at Home Depot. Yep. So hopefully we'll see that again. If they do, I'm gonna buy a few of them and maybe do raffles with them or something like that. Donate them for raffles for causes and stuff like that, because that's an excellent deal. And these are great little setups, like I say, great for beginners and intermediates. And I know some legal distillers that have been doing it since they're a kid that have them. I mean, Alan Bishop, one of the most renowned, moonshiners, become legal distillers, double gold winning, platinum winning, distiller with, he's got a big distillery up there in Indiana now. He's, very, very knowledgeable friend of mine. And, he's got a little baby he plays with, man. And they make great liquor, excellent liquor. If good mash in and run it properly. And man, I tell you, it's as good as anything once you pack it with copper. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that this is as good as a copper pot that's equivalent. I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass and lie like that. No, it's not as good as a copper pot. It's not. It's just not. But it's less expensive, and you can stuff this with copper and get your sulfites out. And for your money, get a pretty damn good bang for your buck. Make some pretty good liquor. Now, copper will do better, but for an 18.5-gallon, it's going to cost you over $1,000. It's going to cost a lot of money, whereas this is a couple hundred. So it's just what you can afford. If you can afford that copper, by all means. It's a little bit more maintenance wise, but it is better. It heats better. It takes sulfites out. It's definitely the best way to go. But yeah, save up. And yeah, and I agree. Once you get a good handle on it, once you, and learn. And, I've had people that did the same, and they did the copper thing, and they're like, yes, it's better. I can tell it's better. And then they have to deal with the cleaning, the maintenance, and all that. And then some people say, maybe I should just stuck with the stainless. It's so easy. I just take that mesh out and throw it away. It's cheap, and I can rinse it and reuse it several times, and I can clean it. And it's easy just to stuff in a jar with a little citric acid and clean it up and rinse it and reuse it. until you can't. It gets correct, it gets bad. It gets dark and green. You don't want to use it again. You just throw it away. But I've had them come back to stainless. And a lot of big corporate people are going to stainless. A lot of the big guys use stainless. So, but they have copper in the vapor path. That's one of the big things is you want to have copper in the vapor path really to remove those sulfides, and that's one of the big differences. Plus, the even heating that you get with copper, it helps get a good even distill where with the stainless, it's more prone, especially for scorching. But most of the bigger copper ones are jacketed where you don't have that worry. Yeah, yeah. Now with the 3-pot, it's going to be tough to add the copper mesh, but in these football stills, you pack in that football and then run it to a worm, or run it just to a shotgun. I use a shotgun on mine, and I use the copper mesh, and it does help a lot, especially with brandies. Brandies tend to have a little bit, for me, more sulfites. Dark fruits, tend to have more sulfur in them than some of the other things. It also has to do with yeast and how happy they are. If they're not real happy, if they're stressed, sometimes they'll produce sulfurous substances and off, and off flavors and stuff. They'll kick out butyric acid or different organic acids and stuff. So it's real important to keep your yeast happy. That's vital, especially if it's a wine. Damn sure you got to keep them happy for wine. Yeah, yeah, you can do that. And I've seen somebody use the paste, to help. Or you can just use the old biscuit dough, make you some rye flour or biscuit flour and do the old fashioned way. And if you got a leak until you get it fixed. But yeah, for the flex pipe. And I think once you get your system down, I think once you figure out where everything's going to be and how your pot sits on that turkey fryer, or that whatever you use stand to hold your propane burners on, or if you do it on a stove that does. Now if you do it on the stove, make sure your stove doesn't cycle hot cold to maintain temperature. You want it to stay hot all the time, and you want to adjust it on the dial. Not a lot of stoves do that. Most of them want to thermostatically jump up and down on you. So you got to be careful. Some people just use heating elements in their stills. Um, but yeah, copper gaskets definitely, because they'll allow you to get a little bite in there and seal off a lot better. But if you can adjust everything to tri clamps, that's the way to go. It's so much easier connecting everything and disconnecting everything. The unions work okay, but over time, every time you do a union, that 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 round part bites into the other side to get a seal. And if you don't get it just in the same exact spot every time, you can see little bite marks, different, bite marks at different circles on it. And over time, those start to leak real finely. A lot of times you won't notice the leak because it's so fine and small and it's just alcohol vapors. And you'll smell it, you'll think it's coming out of the worm, but you'll notice your proof dropping. That's usually one of the biggest indicators of of a leak that you can get. Is this mash that went in there had a pretty good alcohol content, and I'm only coming off at 100 or 110. Usually coming off at 130 or 40. What's wrong? Start looking for a leak. And to look for a leak, just like a plumber, get some soapy water and start hitting all your gaskets and look for bubbles. Because it can be, if you use it in open flame, it can be deadly. It can get explosive. What's going on, man? Good to have you here, brother. Yeah, the 3/8 is just too small. I mean, it's a little bit better than a quarter. You know, Now that's what I was using, a little, 2 or 3 gallon pressure cooker when I was young. 3/8 coil. At least a half, 5/8. I say if you get 5/8, and you can get that 5/8 that's really coiled up in a box ready to go, and it's cheap, it's flexible, easy to work with. You can, you know, coil it up a little tighter for your buckets if you need to, and it's so much easier to work with. Uh, Half or 5/8 definitely the way to go. And don't buy sticks and try to bend your sticks, because that's a lot of work you don't have to do. Just buy it coiled up in a box. It's ready to go, and you don't need that big, thick, heavy copper. There's not that much pressure on these. It's not like a house. You're not going to get a lot of jarring around and stuff. You just don't need that L or M copper. Get that softer stuff that's coiled up. I thought, well, something like that, but get a silicone tube and just split it, and that silicone's inert, and it won't. The rubber will break down with that. With the, I think the heads, the ethyl acetate and acetone break that rubber down. I don't think the ethanol does as much, but there's some compounds in the heads and the foreshots that will kind of mess with that rubber, and you definitely don't want that taste and stuff in there. But like a silicone tube or a silicone, just a round tube, just split it and just fit that tube all around it and just set it down. That'll do like a big gasket. Or smaller tubing, you can just flatten it out, put a little hole in it, or if you wanted to do just a small hole, you get that 1 inch, cut a little bit off, split it, flatten it out, drill a hole, and just force it down on there. And that silicone tubing worked pretty well. And it's a time, just for a temporary thing until you can get some good ones. But they make some replacements that are good, that work on it, and they don't break, and they're not. It's just that China used the cheapest shit they could get, and sometimes cheaper, might keep the cost down, but it ain't the best. They probably could have spent 3 cents more per steel setup, 3 cents more per gasket, and got one that's twice as good. But I guess they figure that 3 cents times a million saved them $30,000, whatever. Somebody's doing the math out there. What's 3 cents times a million? I'm gonna do it. It is 30,000. Damn, I got lucky. I'll start thinking about it. Is that right? Awesome. I'll definitely bring your brothers in. And who knows? I mean, if you enjoy drinking, we're not here just to make moonshine. We talk about making wines and brandies. It's definitely not just, everybody thinks that moonshiners just make moonshine. I can make some of the best grappa you've ever put your lips to. Brandies, some of the best peach brandies you can drink. We make a lot of rums, vodkas. I make Tito's look like shit, bro. I ain't kidding you. Now, some of the stuff I make, some of my grappa, people say it's the best liquor they've ever drank in their lives. They're not lying to me either. They'll be honest with you. These are the same guys that say, man, this sucks. So, yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good hobby. I know a lot of people in the hobby. They don't even drink anymore. They just still love doing it. And they give it away to their family and friends, and just something to sit around and talk about. And they don't even drink it. Yeah, it's a really fun hobby, and it's good. And as long as you keep it as a hobby and don't, get out there and sell it and get you, 500-gallon stills and tell everybody and advertise on Facebook, what you got available and shit like that, you should be okay. Just keep it as a hobby and don't sell it. Keep it in the home and share it with your friends and family. I think we have a constitutional right. We should have a constitutional right to do that. I mean, they allow you to make beer and they allow you to make wine. Why can't I just put that beer or wine in a pot and distill it and make it something stronger? I mean, they won't even, technically by the law, it's even illegal to take a wine, put it outside, and let the water in it freeze and pull the ice out. to make a fortified wine to make it stronger. They call that freeze distilling. And that's supposed to be illegal too. So that's some bullshit right there. Because they can't say, oh, it's about safety. What's the danger in putting it in a fucking bucket outside or in a freezer, letting it freeze, pull the ice out, and putting a cup in there and drinking it? Other than the hangover, there, you might be able to save you from a hangover, because that Applejack, it'll damn sure give you a hangover because it's got heads in it. It's like drinking a lot of wine. Yeah, beverage is a great way to get in on the hobby. Yeah, I ran kegs for a long time too, brother, and it's kegs are good. But my big deal, like I said earlier, my big issue with the keg was it was hard to clean. That was it. That was my only issue with the keg. Other than that, I loved it. Nowadays, you can get you a big ferrule welded on it. You can get ferrules welded in the side, use electric. The only thing I don't like about a keg is you can't put it on the stove top, and in the wintertime, you still have to get that propane out or get electric, get those ferrules welded into the side and get you SCID or a PID and run some electric to it. And the people that do the electric, I was always real weary of the electric and the elements. So like, there's no way that doesn't scorch. And everybody that does it says, man, it doesn't scorch at all, makes the best damn liquor ever. And more people are starting to adopt it because it's inexpensive. You don't have to worry about those propane tanks. Is there enough in that tank for me to get this run? Or, oh my God, it stopped halfway through the run. I'm out of propane. So you're running to the store to get more propane, and hoping to get back while it's still hot and shit like that, So, but yeah, kegs are great too. Yeah. The best thing too about a keg is take that column off there, sit in the corner. Somebody comes in and looks at it. I don't see it still in here. I see a beer keg over there, but I don't see no moonshine still in here. Right? So it's kind of, camouflage. Fits right in. Especially if you put that tap on top of it while you're storing it, keep the tap on it. And then they come in, that's just a beer keg with a tap, right? Then you take the tap off, use it for a keg, and put that tap right back on it. Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome, brother. Yeah, the football stills do a good job. I was skeptical at first. I bought this one right here, the 18.5 gallon one, and I was really skeptical. Uh, but the way I looked at it, I was like, it can't be, much different than a keg, other than it's not going to be as heavy duty. That's another good thing about the keg is it's very heavy duty. You can throw it in the back of your truck. It looks like a keg. You can take it wherever you want to go. Nobody says anything. It's just an empty keg rolling around. Can't do that with a big copper steel now. But I was a little bit, the price was cheap, real cheap. At the time, I think I got mine for like $189 or something. It was on a deal. It wasn't 150. I wish I got it that cheap, but it was less than 200. 189, 190 something with tax and everything. Wasn't real bad. So my hopes weren't set high. And but after I ran it a few times, I did take the canister filter off because I got a little bit of smearing in it, and I noticed there's some coiled up um, stainless tubing in here, flex stainless, and I think one of mine that had a little negative slope in it, and kept held a little bit, and I could taste a little bit in through the hearts. So I just ran a shotgun condenser off of it, and it does fine. I'd say you could put a Liebig on it too; it'd be fine. Actually, this canister, if you got one that didn't have a negative slope, would be fine. Most people probably might not even notice it if you did a bunch and mixed it all together. I just noticed it because I taste that particular jar. But if you mixed it all together, it would have probably blended in fine. Cam, I'm not even. I'm glad for you, brother, but I'm not going. I'm not going to highlight that because I don't want people to see that now. Be careful. there's some templates on the internet. I posted some. I'm not sure if it was for a 12, I think, or 20. I think it was a 12. But you can scale them up or down. But if you have some to share, be awesome. Now, you talking about paper or just drawn out? The one I'm talking about is just drawn out. It's on a computer file. Now, there's some. What you do, you take that template and you mark it and measure it and put it on like poster board, right? And some people even do sheet metal. I know a lot of people that are in the business do it on sheet metal because that's something that'll last. Poster board ain't gonna last you, a bunch if you keep doing a bunch of work with it. But they make sheet metal templates and they use those as their cutting guides and marking guides to mark them out. But if you have one, definitely share it with the group. I think I've shared some that was maybe like 5 and 12 gallon, but you can scale them up and down. Add. Um, I would just I would yeah there are lots of materials out there that you can use. And I know I'm getting way behind on the beverage still. Now, Jonathan, are you talking about on this type of steel or the 3-pot? On the 3-pot, yeah, there's lots of them out there, and we'll post a link. I'll get you maybe I'll put the link or get Phil Billy to post his link in the Moonshine Militia group page on Facebook. If you're not in there, join, and we'll post that up, and you can buy gaskets. Let him know what size you got when you order, because they do a lot with Bever. They do a lot of work with Bever, and they make a lot of parts for Bevers too. Rigs. They make you condensers coming off here. They make you a whiskey head. If you want a copper whiskey head coming off here instead of a football, they can make that for you. They can do a lot of good stuff. They do a lot of good stuff, brother. Yeah, yeah, you can use math to do it. Templates help, but if not, just know that you got to give a little extra for all your bends and folds and everything. They're not too hard to make. They're hard to make and look good, but they're easy to make. Now, if you want to make one that looks really nice, you might want to buy one or practice on some small ones before you graduate up. But um, yeah, Fibly can take care of you. But yeah, it's hard to make one and make it look really nice, and have good solder without big puddles. You can tell when somebody hasn't done a lot of copper soldering. You can see the puddles, and that's okay as long as it makes good liquor and you didn't use leaded solder. Who gives a fuck? If it doesn't leak, it makes good liquor. Might not be pretty, but you the woman after you drink the liquor sure will be. At least after you drink the liquor. All right, we're moving on here. Yeah, always go backwards. Yeah, definitely do that because I've done. We've all made the mistake. And if you taste those heads, man, it's just that acetone. I don't know. It's not just me because I've asked a lot of people and they get the same. You start getting into the hearts and you still taste it. But if you go tails forward, tails backwards, I guess you could say. Yeah. Yeah. And once you get used to making those cuts, when you get to that critical point, you can start putting it in pint jars instead of quart jars, and have like 4 or 5 pints, where it's going to be questionable on the heads and right in the transition into the heads to the hearts and from the hearts to the tails. After you get a little experience, you'll know about when you're going to hit that. It will vary. Grains should all be about the same, but when you start doing brandies, you'll get a little bit more heads with brandies. I'll talk to Phil. I'm pretty sure he has them, or he might be out of them. I know he's had them in the past, But yeah, Ace has them. Pretty much all your, Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, Menards, a lot of those places are going to have, gaskets that are similar. Um, but get a silicone gasket or a PTFE gasket. Those will work best. Try to stay away from the rubber, because that those break down big time, and it won't be a month or two, and you every time you touch it, there'll be black coming off in your hands, and you'll taste it. You don't want to deal with that. So get silicone gaskets or PTFE, which is, when I first I thought all Teflon was like tape and soft, like the paste, Teflon paste, and the tape. But Teflon is technically a plastic, and they make a plastic, O-ring for the tri clamps too, and it's a heavy plastic. So try to find some PTFE. That's probably the best stuff, but it's going to be probably harder to find than a silicone gasket. Yeah, and in your 8-gallon pot, you probably have what, about 6 gallons that you run. So it's an 8-gallon to the top up here to the rim of the. So you're going to have a little bit of space, right? So it doesn't foam over, because you can't boil water without it foaming up. So you can imagine what a beer is going to do, right? That's basically what your grain mash is a beer. So if you've got a beer in there, it's going to foam. So you can degas it, and that helps. And you can put a little bit of oil in there, vegetable oil, canola oil or something, butter. A lot of people use butter to help keep that foaming down, and that does work. It won't hurt them. As I was talking about earlier, if you get that 5/8 coil and run it in a big 5-gallon bucket or a 10-gallon bucket, you can handle 55-gallon steels easy, no problem. 5/8, and it's a coil, it comes in a box, and it might be used for HVAC. So don't get used HVAC, because that has an oil in it. And I know the old oil they used to use in it's toxic. The new oil may not be, and it's really hard to clean out. So just get a new HVAC line. New, comes in a box, really coiled up, readily coiled, or 5/8 coiled, soft copper, and it'll handle a 55. I think 15 feet in a 10-gallon bucket would handle anything like 55 and under easy. Yeah, just go to that, appreciate it, Cam, or just go to fieldbillymoonshine.com, or give him a call, and ask him. But I think with their fieldbillymoonshine.com, they may have a message thing too set up where you can ask, and they'll get back with you. They're good about that. Probably get back getting to you as he has been to me. I'll leave you messages, and I maybe if I was asking about something, I'd get a better reply. Malted caramel rye, awesome, man. That sounds good. Polished rice, interesting. Interesting. Now, like I said, I don't know a lot about rice. I did do some research on it. Um, Let me type this message. That was to my cousin. People ask me questions. I guess they don't know I got podcasts on that's doing the same thing. Uh, yeah, let's see. I did some research on rice a while back. Let me find. This might take a little bit of digging. It's definitely going to take me enlarging those extra large icons. God bless, I need them even bigger than extra large. All right, break out the old. Let's see what it got here. This is, I'm not Googling. This is all pictures and stuff that I save. So I have a lot of graphs and stuff and charts and information that I save. And I've got some saved about rice and different types of rice. Because I'm interested in using it, but I don't know as much about it. I'm scrolling through all these pictures. There's some other stuff in here as well that's not pictures, it's text that talks about. Is that it? No, that's sweet feed contents. This will give you, this is a good one. This will tell you, earlier I was talking about the gelatinization temps. So don't take it up to, you can go above this, like, well, it doesn't even have, maize. Okay. So you can see maize is 162. Well, we do it at 190, 185, 90. So you can go above it. And this is unmalted grains. Never take malted grains up this high. You denature them completely. But for your rice, yeah, you can cook it at 171. I don't know how long. I do know that the higher you go, the faster it gelatinizes. So I'm sure rice would be the same. So, but that's not the rice info I was looking for. But that was in my page. So let me go back and oops. Image file. Oh, maybe if I didn't hit image file, let me see if I got no video file. Okay. Let's see if it is in. I'll have to mark these a little better. But somewhere in all this mess, I have some information on rice. Let me just search for it here like this. I'll search my file folder. Yeah, let's see. There we go. Yeah, that was in my charts. There we go. Popped right up when I typed in rice. But this, let me open that up so I can see it better on mine. Y'all look at that chart. I'm gonna open it up on my page so I can see it a little better. Just type in rice here like I did there. And boom, I'm looking at that chart. Let me go to paint and open it with paint so I can enlarge. Yeah, that's good. Now, if you look at the graph, if y'all can see that, if you're on a phone, I'm sure you probably can't. But I'll try to post this. I'll post this on the DIY page and in the Moonshine Militia. But it just talks about the different amounts of starch concentrations in different types of rice. And it's got the raw, parboiled jasmine, the samadhi, and sticky rice. So it will show you, and I guess they do a lot of these studies for people with diabetes. So, they want to pick a starch with a low, starch and sugar concentration for them. But, we can use this same technology to know what gives us the most sugars and the most starches, right? So that's the one we want to use, right? But I think this is geared towards making sake. It's not just for diabetic study. I don't know, maybe it is after reading everything. I think it's just basically done for glycemic index. So that would be for, which is best for somebody with diabetes. They'll want to use the raw or the sticky rice. Or no, I'm sorry, that's the parboiled rice instead of I think the basmati may be the highest on this chart. Now, there are some other rices that may not be on this chart. So take it for what it's worth. But let me make a note to put that chart on there as well. If I don't make a note, I'll forget it. Sure as I'm sitting here. But I'll put that on the DIY page and in the militia page. And the beard hair everywhere. All right, so let me close that back down. So that's a little info on rice. I hope that answers some questions, but I'm not sure if you have to, Mike. I haven't done the research, so I'm not saying you don't. But I would think, any of the rice that you might have to grind it actually. Once you cook it up, I don't know if I don't guess doesn't have the hull on it anymore, so I don't think you'd have any problem gelatinizing it as a full size grain. I've not done it yet, but I do know people that have done it with the rice. They ground it up some to make it a little finer, to get the starch better, and they use that Yellow Label Angel, and they got pretty good results with it. And they said it worked out fine. Said it took a long time. It did take a while. So you have to be patient with it. Might take 3 or 4 weeks, but it worked out pretty well. Now cooking it and using the high temp alpha and the glucose, that definitely would work pretty well as well. It does work. Yeah, you'll get different amounts of foreshots from just about every different thing. And again, getting back to happy yeast, if you stress yeast, you tend to have an increased amounts of heads, not foreshots. That's methanol. One thing that can affect the amount of methanol, the foreshots that come off, is using pectic enzymes or not. The pectic enzymes we know eat the cellular walls. We talk about it eating, breaking down the cellular walls and allowing all the inside of the cell to be exposed with all the juices and sugars are encapsulated in that cell by the cell walls. And that pectic enzyme breaks down that cellulose. It's breaks it down and eats it, and it opens it up. But at the same time, it's eating that cellulose and creating something similar to a wood alcohol, with this methanol, which is what foreshots are. So anytime you use pectic enzymes or deal with brandies where you're using fruits or anything where you're using pectic enzymes, yeah, you could definitely expect to have a little bit more foreshots to deal with, and heads. Good point, brother. Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And as far as fours, I'm not sure how much is in sugar, if any, but still have some heads. You're still going to have to deal with some heads. That's just a byproduct of the fermentation process, regardless. I know a lot of people say sugar shine doesn't have any heads. Yes, it does. Oh, he's here. Yeah, with the Yellow Label, good point. With when you use the Yellow Label Angel yeast, the only time that it's going to help you at all is at the end, because basically, and I don't even know how much it's going to help at the end, because basically when you stick it in there at the very beginning, it hadn't done anything yet, so it's going to read zero sugars. And as it breaks the starches down, the yeast is also consuming them, so it's going to turn it into alcohol. So I don't know that you're ever going to get a thick syrupy change to ever give you more than zero, because it pretty much works at the same time. As you break down the starches and the starches get broken into fermentable sugars, the yeast eat it just as fast as it happens almost. So it really, I don't, you may be right, it's going to be hard for a hydrometer to even tell you know much. So you just have to go by taste and time. Just let it do its thing. Give it plenty of time, and go by the taste. You'll get that alcohol taste. And yep, good point. 4 pounds per gallon, man. That's well, I mean, you don't have to worry about the gelatinization and the thickness. And I, what have you ever calculated how much ABV that mash ended up being, Clint, and how much Yellow Label can handle percentage wise? Brother, mine's getting worse and worse. I've got a couple of family members that's had dementia. I had a sister that passed away. She's about 5 years older than me, and she got it and passed away from it already. And my dad's in his 80s, and he's getting it and has it. And that's why every time I forget something, man, it worries the hell out of me. So I don't know if it's just getting old or if it's going to happen to me too, man. That's I want to teach as many people what I know while I know it, because yeah, is it? That's interesting, man. I wonder what that comes out to. We'll have to do the math on that and see what, once you distill it all the way out and see what volume you get out of it, you'll know how much it produced out of that corn, and then you will know how well it's converting it, right? So that'd be a good experiment. What's going on? Matters? I'm gonna call you Matters. Character matters. 100%. Not a lot of people with it these days. The blender worm it's a steel, and it's a better steel, and it looks a lot like the football head, except it comes up and it goes straight over, and it looks like a blender on top instead of that, and it has the condenser in the top of the steel, so it just has it all in one that comes out the top. A little bit different, and I don't think it has a tri clamp on it, which is the biggest problem. But they make good liquor. They're just not as easily convertible to all the things that you can add to a tri clamp. That's the beauty of these. So you can take that football off right there at the base of the football where it meets the pot, and that's a 2.5-inch tri clamp fitting, and you can get a 2.5 to 2 reducer and 2-inch tri clamps. Man, I mean, you can get all the pipe, sight glasses, shotgun condensers, fill it in, make heads, whiskey heads from 2. So yeah, it's very versatile. What's up, Steve? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, it just looks like basically a blender, like a blender looks, with a flat top and comes down. It looks a lot like a blender. You can't move them. That doesn't have a clamp, tri clamp on it. That's one of the worst things about it. I was hoping it did. Yeah, Chris is a good guy. You like him, Clint. He's a good guy. He's a lot like me though. When you get him drinking a lot, man, we tend to talk. You put us both in the same room, man, it's going to be both of us talking at the same time. You won't be able to understand a thing. Yeah, interesting. Now I know a lot of people use the charcoal. It helps remove the fusel oils too that you get a lot in your tails. Now you mentioned you rerunning your tails a lot. Um, those will help take a lot of those oils out of your tails for when you rerun them. They're real good for that too. But yeah, the one of the best things to get that sulfide out, that copper mesh. Unless you don't have a place to put it. Now you don't want to be sticking a bunch of little copper mesh in a 1/2-inch pipe. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. in a big, you can pack it in here because it's got room to go around it and through it. But when I say pack it, if you have a 2-inch column, you can wrap it loosely in a, coil and set it in your column, but it's got to be able to breathe, right? I, I, I'm sure as hell as I sit here and I tell somebody, yeah, put that, they'll be winding that shit real tight, forcing it into a 1/2-inch copper and blowing up the steel and wondering, why in the hell said tell me to pack it right down? Please don't. Don't pack it like that, man. Um, but place it in a place where it's loose. If you've got a slobber box or something, put some in there, fill it up with it, and it'll go in there. All that vapor will go around that copper mesh just fine. Don't pack it in tight. Just loosely roll it up into a nice little roll and set it in there. Where air can breathe through it, water can go through it, and it'll work. It'll work just fine in them slobber boxes that way. Absolutely. You know, I get the 16 gauge for a small steel's fine, but I'm sorry, the 16 ounce. I'm not. What what's the gauge to ounce conversion, Scott? I use the 16's fine on small stuff, 5 or 10 gallon. But when you start getting the 20, 30, 40 plus, you're really going to need to use a 20 ounce. And if you go above 50, you really should, start getting into where they measure it instead of, ounces, where they measure it in, 3/32 or something like that. I noticed North Georgia working with some 1/4-inch plate and some 3/32 in some large jacketed steels that they were posting right before I logged on to here. So I'm gonna ask me questions. I'm gonna post you a damn link. No, I'm not that link. I'm gonna post this link. All right. Did you? I've got an old Frigidaire. It was old when I moved into this house, and I've been here like 12, 13 years. It's at least 20 plus years. But it's a good stove. I wish it's nicer than the stainless one we got in the kitchen now. It's white and it's old. And it's the top, this glass top, not infrared. It's infrared, not the the brainstorm. Anyway, it's not the conduction type. It's infrared, but it does fine. But it doesn't cycle on and off. Once I get like 6 and below, it'll cycle on and off. 7, it doesn't much. 8 or 9, it just stays on the whole time. 9 to high, 8 to high, I can adjust the heat a little bit, but it doesn't cycle at all. So it works great. And it's got 5 burners, middle being the warmer. So I turn the warmer on high, the back burner on 9, the front burner on 9, and no problems at all, man. Just it works perfectly every time. But I'd rather have the coils so I wouldn't have to do it in the kitchen. I've moved this down to the basement, and I use the one in the kitchen now until I can wire this one up in the basement where I can use it in my laundry room where I've got a refrigerator in there. That's awesome. Hell yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Brian, I wouldn't talk about selling or anything on here, man, because everybody sees this. So be real careful, brother. I don't want anybody getting in trouble, or just be careful. Don't brag about the big steal, even on the Facebook groups or anywhere else. Um, don't mention selling it or anything like that. Um, I don't want any heat on any of my brothers, and we've had some that that have done that. They got caught. So be real careful. It's a hobby, and I wouldn't talk about that. Be careful, brother. Seriously. First offense, it's not a big deal, but I don't want anybody losing their steel and losing all their stuff and getting that on their record and stuff. If you're doing apple pie, what temp do you want it before you add your? I think you're talking about like a post flavoring, taking like apple juice and heating it up. Now, you don't have to boil it or anything, just enough to help mix your spice and melt your sugar down and dissolve the sugar. So it doesn't have to like be boiling or anything like that. Probably 160, 80 in that range. And so just enough to dissolve your sugar in and hot enough to help, get that cinnamon stick going, and all that. So yeah, and then just mix it all together and cook it just a second, and then just turn everything off and let it cool because you don't want too much of the alcohol evaporating out, right? Yeah, yeah. You just want to heat it up enough to dissolve your sugar and cook in your cinnamon and clove, whatever else you add to it. But it's good. Um, I'm pretty surprised at that. It's legal to in my state. It's legal for me to make beer and wine and mail it to anybody as long as it's a reciprocal state. Um, you have to check your laws and see what states are reciprocal with your state. A lot of states are that way. We'll allow our people in our state to mail it to this state as long as they allow the same thing back. And I'm from Kentucky, so that's whiskey capital, bourbon capital of the world. So they definitely allow you to mail it wherever you want from here, even the small time. But for like wine and beer, yeah, I can mail wine and beer all day long. Now the USPS, I mean, it really shouldn't be any of their business because it's not a hazardous material. Like high proof alcohol would be considered a hazardous material, flammable, right? But like a wine or a beer, no. So I'm really surprised that they would be that way, but I'm really not. And they're kind of woke. But I think it might be the person that you talk to as well. Might not. A lot of people they don't want to bite the bullet and have to Google the answer, right? They got too much pride to Google that answer. So, they're going to sit behind that UPS count or USPS counter, say, "Oh no, you can't do that," and have no idea what the real regulations are. Just like filming in their lobbies. Oh, you can't film in here, and it's right on their damn poster, right? We've all seen that. Them Second Amendment auditors, or First Amendment auditor. Kind of like a Second Amendment auditor is a little better, right? Audit that. Freeze jacking. Am I that far behind? God bless America. I gotta be that far behind again. I was just getting caught up. Um, yeah, it's. I think I'm pretty sure for these winemakers around here, they mail wine all the time, and I'm not sure. I don't know if they have to go through UPS or somebody else. Wow, yeah. Well, get her done, brother. I look forward to. I'm gonna buy one. Yeah, now they have wine vinegar too. I mean, that's the good for cooking. You know, a lot of people once their wine goes bad and it's turned to vinegar. Oh, okay, it makes good cooking wine. You know, I've cooked with it. Oh wow, that sounds awesome, brother. Um, it won't work out good. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't. Once your wine turns, you know, it's hard to recover that alcohol from it. The vinegar, basically, the acetobacters feed on that alcohol. They eat that shit up, man. They'll eat it. Just like the yeast eat sugar and produce alcohol, those acetobacters, mother of vinegar, will eat that alcohol and convert it to vinegar. Same, it's weird, isn't it? But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get that taste out. Not saying it can't be done, but you know, I don't know. I've never tried it on like a column with bubble plates and a deflag and all that running. Generally, I just use it for cooking and use it up. Just dump that shit in there. You know, use a bunch. Yeah, yeah, it'd be good for cleaning the steel. That's true. See, that's what I like about you guys. Y'all think on the roll. Yeah, yeah, and that same, you know, the eggshell is calcium carbonate. It's the same thing as those oyster shells. So, you know, you could use those too. Grind them up and use that powder. It's good for. I use mine in the garden too. You know, I use those oyster shells in my fermentations that have a lot of sugar. Um, Maybe not so much wines, but anything that I'm making a wine with that I know is going to be a brandy and gets a lot of sugar, I'll put it in it. I'll put it in sugar shine as well. Grains, no, I don't because it happens so quickly. My ferments last about 5 or 6 days, and I'm done. And you know, I don't. There's no need for it. I've never had pH crashes in any of my grain mashes. It's always been brandies or sugar shine or you know tequilas or something like always something like that. Anything that has a lot of syrups or sugars. Yeah, I mean, you know, we were talking about earlier, you know, about making your own steel. Um, as long as it works, that's the most important thing. That's because you're not over tightening it. You know, everybody thinks, you know, I got to get that thing on there tight, tight, tight. And they break out their inches and torque and they just, you know, hand tightening usually enough. And if it's not, I mean, you can take a little mirror or subs, you know, soap with a little dishwashing liquid in it. You know, it's like a plumber, and or you can take a little mirror around your fittings, and it'll fog up if it's got a leak, or you'll bubble up if you put that, you know, that water with soap in it. But most people over tighten them. That's the problem, and the plastic just can't handle it. I I saw, this is what I saw, Scott. Now, this this bever that I've got up here comes with a big O-ring that fits inside the lid, right? So you take the lid and you turn it over, and there's a groove, and it has to go in a certain way because one side of the silicone is larger than the other. It goes from large to small. So the large goes on the inside and it tapers to the small towards the outside, and it fits inside the rim of the lid. I've seen people take a knife and put a split all the way around that so it would sit down on the pot and the lid could fit down onto that and ruin that seal. And now they're wondering where they can get a new seal now. But yeah, the that old big huge O-ring that those come with will fit inside that lid. You have to stretch it a little bit to get it to fit in there, and it's a little bit of a tight fit. You know, I got mine wet and it made it go in a little easier. But it fits inside the lid, and I've never removed it. You know, I just rinse it off after I use it every time, and it's not gotten dirty on me or anything. And I've used the hell out of it. But yeah, but I don't know how the three pots work. I've not had the three pots, so it may be different on those. Yeah, the gasket goes, actually, there's a groove in the lid that it'll fit right into, and you have to make sure the big goes to the inside and the small it tapers to the outside, and it worked fine. But there is a certain way it goes on, and of course, it doesn't help that Beaver sends it without any fucking instructions. You know, there wasn't any with mine, so you're basically on your own. Just started the drip. It takes me about 4 hours to from the drip to when I first get pretty well into tails, and then if I collect tails, it's another couple of hours, you know, to collect those on out. So about 6 hours, and if I do a rerun, it's going to add a couple more hours on there. Yeah, yeah, my gasket went in the lid. That's cool. But Scott, do you have the football or three pot? It'll fit right in that lid. There's a groove all the way around it, right on on that edge, and you have to stretch it. I mean, it doesn't look like it's made for it because you have to stretch it for it to fit a little bit, but it'll fit in there tight, and then it's gold. And I'm not taking it out since then, so I don't want to fuck it up because I know they're hard to find if you can find them. But you know, I'm going to talk to Phil and see if he can talk to Vever because they really, you know, Vever doesn't make all their stuff; they buy it and put their name on a lot of stuff, kind of like GE and a lot of other places, Whirlpool and a lot of it. You know, there's a lot of places that don't make the appliances that they sell. They make some, but there's other models that they just buy off somebody else and rebrand and sell. So Vever's big about that. Does it? That's good to know. Good to know. Polished rice. Okay. So do they recommend that you don't grind it up, just use polished rice? That's good to know. Oh yeah. And as long as it works, it doesn't matter, you know. Yours came with another main gasket or three pot. I'm pissed, man. Mine didn't. So you're a napper. And I don't mean somebody sleeps a lot either. That's what they call them, nappers. When you nap, Interesting. Yeah, mine come out smell taste like Downy. That'd be my luck. I'd be drinking Tide Pods. Yeah, with the yellow label, you don't have to cook it. You don't have to gelatinize it. Does all of it. You can cold mash and just put it in, but it takes longer, Richard. And that's what I found too. Is had an odd odor. Now that could be just the rice or the yeast doing that, or maybe it was just not real happy. Maybe it needed nutrient. Maybe it's out the temperature range. I mean, there's a lot of factors, and you know, some people that use this, some people liked the yellow label, loved it. Some people didn't like the flavor it had. It's all subjective. You know, some people, you know, like a lot of things other people don't like. So it's not like, I don't think it's something that is an offensive taste or bad taste or anything like that. But I think that some people, it just, you know, it just wasn't their cup of tea kind of thing, you know. Let's see if I can post that link in here now. Yeah, it's a little later. Yeah, put it in LPR, shine. There we go. Got to get it in there. But yeah, so it's good to know. Try cooking it a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure about the polishing, you know, and how exactly they do that. I mean, maybe they like media blast their ice and put it through, you know, a compress or something, or force it through something to I have no idea if polishing is done that way, or, you know, like you talk about, you know, doing that's, guess it's like tumbling stones, you know, doing the rock tumbler idea, but I have no idea how they polish. That'd be a good thing to research though, polishing rice. Yeah, that's the thing about it. You know, they did on here, and I've sent out the request, so we'll see if they're listening. But let me show y'all something. Shit, we've got a new option here. Where is it? Tell me they didn't take that off. All right, here we go. See, we got something that it show comments on the stage, and can you all do some comments? I'm not. I'll just put it up there, and I'm not seeing them, but I am seeing a little square down here for them. Maybe if I do that, no, that, nope, that, nope, that, nope, that, nope, nope, nope. It's not. I don't see them over here, but it's got like a little square at the bottom right. Maybe nobody's commented since I clicked on that. Somebody make some comments and let's see if it shows. The issue with StreamYards is we stream to lots of different places. We stream to 3 different Facebook places, 2 different YouTube places. We stream to Twitch, we stream to Kick, and sometimes to Rumble, and sometimes to Kick too. Sometimes, like right now, we're not streaming to Kick because it has hiccups sometimes when you're loading up. So if y'all can you all see that? If you're on a phone, you're not going to be able to see it. Now, my request to StreamYards was to make it larger, or make this square where the posts are in the bottom right, make it to where we could enlarge that. So I've got that request out to them, and hopefully they'll make this square where we can enlarge it. Problem is, where we streamed all these different places, if you're on YouTube, you only see the YouTube comments that are made from that YouTube channel that you're watching. So if you're on the Militia YouTube channel, you see Militia YouTube comments. If you're on the Fieldbilly Moonshine YouTube channel, you see comments from the YouTube from there. But in the comment sections, you won't see a lot of Facebook comments. So that's part of the problem, is that a lot of times they won't see, you know. Now I'm scrolling up. So it depends on where you are to what you see. But if you're on a PC, you could probably see these a little bit. You might have to pull out the old magnifying glass like me, but I can read that text. It's pretty small, but I can read it on a PC. I know if you're on a phone, you're not going to be able to read that. And, you know, hopefully StreamYard will listen to what I say. And I want to make it to where it's over here on the right side, and I'm on the left side, right? So it'll be kind of side to side, and that way you all can see comments from all the different platforms at the same time, and that would really be a huge thing for them to accomplish if they can. I'm gonna squirrel up. I'm wanting to get some questions. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, go to the field. But you know, I hate saying don't go to the militia site, but it'd be best if y'all went to that one. I'm not sure which Facebook site. I think maybe all Facebook can see all Facebook. Can all YouTube see? Can you different YouTubers not see each other? Because I know it's tough, and especially if you look on here, you can see some YouTube comments. And you can be like, "Well, I don't see that over here, but I see it here," and you won't see it at all unless you're on PC because it's too damn small for a phone. 18% yellow label. I was gonna say, you know, at 4 pounds to a gallon, you know, using regular, you know, that's going to put you at 1060, 1070 and change for 2 pounds. 2.5 will get you 1070 pretty consistently. So 4, you know, that should be up to 1090, which should put, you should be able to tell by the volume that you're getting, you know, 10-15% more. It'd be a good experiment though, for sure. Yeah, the Digibosh. That's actually I bought that through off eBay, or is it on Amazon? I think it's on eBay. Yeah, those little columns work great. They're great for cake steels, and they're great for this one. You'll need a 2.5 to 2 reducer, but yeah, Digibosh is who I bought mine through. They're pretty good. I think they're Indian outfit, but they got pretty good customer service. They answered my question when I sent them some information. I had to find out what kind of battery my little digital thermometer used on the elbow because it came without batteries. So I had to find out what kind of batteries it used. Yeah, it'll work good for vodka. It's got a deflagmator on there. It'll get you some good eye proof. I've gotten up to 187 ish on mine, 187, and that wasn't me even putting real cold water through the through the deflagmator. So if I deflag some cold water, it would probably get up there in the low to mid 190s, you know, for sure. But they do a fine job, you know, for what they are and what they cost. Absolutely. It's like 125, 135, depending on where you get it. You might be able to find it on sale sometimes. I know some people got them for less than 100 plus shipping. But generally it's about 125, 35 range. And really, you know, I bought 2 of them because if you break down those parts separately, it's a lot more expensive. And yeah, they work pretty well. Yeah, we talk. Put me, Chris, in the same room, man. There'll be some talking for sure. Am I that far behind? I'm sorry, guys. I might have to skip over some of this. Be a good question. I would say that the 8s and 10s may be pretty close in size, diameter, and different heights, maybe. And maybe even the 13. I'm pretty sure the 18 knows quite a bit bigger. Yeah, the bever comes with it comes with these. I guess they're kind of, I don't know if they're like molecular sieves. I've seen some molecular sieves of the same material, just ceramic balls, but it's just for reflux. They're inert. The alcohol has no impact on them. It's basically, I guess, silica based, and it has nothing that won't affect it at all. So it's just something to cause reflux. So packing. You could use something that's called a Raschig ring, Raschig. They've been using those a long time. You can take copper tubing, just cut off little half-inch, quarter-inch pieces, and deburr it. If you're handling it, you rinse it or something. But yeah, you can use little pieces of copper. You can use old pennies before the 80s, whatever, that they were all copper. Probably not a good idea to use the pennies. They might have some alloy. Even the old ones probably have some other alloy in them. But pure copper mesh works great for reflux. Any copper fitting, elbows, unions, anything you can get in there, pack in there, will help. But the smaller the pieces that go in, the more surface area you're going to get, and the more effective it'll be. And that mesh really, really works well. Yeah, the ones I got were smaller than a dime. Um, Maybe a little bit bigger than the AA batteries diameter. 22 gauges, 16 ounce. Yeah. Yeah, that'll work fine till you get up to about 20. And then when you get about 20, 25, you want to go up to the 20 ounce copper. That's what I've got for mine, is a 20 ounce copper. I've got a sheet in there I've got to make. I'm going to probably make a 30. Yep, that's all you need, brother. Tinctures are awesome. Yeah, we were talking about mushrooms and what was it, Mike? Damn it! And I'm gonna have to try to think of it again. Purslane. He came up with purslane. I was trying to think of the other day. I could not come up with purslane. We were talking about different weeds, what people call and consider weeds these days, and how back in the old days that was dinner, that was food, that was salad. Like dandelion. You can eat about all of a dandelion if some certain parts you have to cook. But there's a lot of different plants. Most of them probably should be cooked. There's any toxins in them or any bacteria on them, bird shit, whatever, snail, slug, slime, whatever. You get all that cooked off there. There are probably some distilleries in dry counties for sure. Actually, I think Jack may have been in a dry county at one time. I know for a fact that it was during the Prohibition, but some places got um, permits to do it for other purposes, I think, and that might have been one of them, Claremont County. Um, I think Claremont County, and that where it's at, Tennessee. I think it might have been dry at one point in time while that distillery was in operation. But yeah, there are some distilleries in dry counties that can't have tasting rooms or any of that. They can produce it, but they can't sell it there. They just produce it there. And that's one of the things. It's a dry county saying you can't sell alcohol, didn't say nothing about making it. So they'd have to come up with a new law. And in most cities and counties, they're not going to turn down that income from the taxes that distillery is paying. So Yeah. Everybody's got a price, right? Some are cheaper than others. Be surprised how cheap some politicians can be bought for. That's for damn sure. Especially on the state and local level. Damn, damn cheap. It could be a state thing. Yeah, it could. It could be. Most post offices though have it's all federal rule. They don't allow states to make any changes whatsoever. They don't give a fuck about states. In fact, most police officers from cities and states, state police and city cops, they have no jurisdiction inside a post office unless it is written consent from the federal government that they are allowed to in that jurisdiction. Fact. I hope it's the good stuff, man. God damn, these days, shoo, just like rocket fuel, man. I can't believe how much stronger weed is today than it was when I was young and first started smoking it. God, it's night and day, man. It's almost getting to a point where it's too strong. I think it's a lot I've smoked is just too strong. I don't want to get, you know, cremated. I just want to get high. You know, purple milkweed. That looks good. One batch of wine. Now I will say, if you have a batch of wine that just doesn't taste good, it's kind of off. You can distill that and it'll make a decent brandy, and you can get your alcohol. You can recover your alcohol. But once it gets vinegar, not just a light vinegar odor, you can probably overcome that. But if it's like the dude that was talking earlier that makes vinegar, he knows vinegar. If it's just a little bit of smell of vinegar, you can correct that. Yeah, you can distill that out. If it's heavy vinegar and it's to the point where you can't taste any alcohol in it and it's all vinegar, then probably, you're just going to be cleaning your still. Still not a bad thing, but I wouldn't drink it because the vinegar will clean a lot of the oxidation off your still, and that'd be some cheap vinegar to use if you instead of throwing it out, save it and run it. But yeah, I've done I do a lot of wine now. I make a lot of wine. I have for the last 10 years or so. I've been doing a lot more wines. And I really enjoy drinking a wine. When you start getting older, that drinking it straight like I like it gets a little harder on you. Especially if you do it in excess. You'll see me sip a few sips every night, but um, time to time though, I'll get wild here at my ass and I'll get drunker than fuck. I go to these festivals and man, I'll get hammered. Me and Wes, fucking Sandman he can drink with me, man. There's not many people I know that can drink with me, and he can sit there and drink for drink with about anybody I know, and we'll sit there and get shit faced. But man, I tell you, Maggie Valley, not this year, but last year, I just stayed drunk pretty much for 3 days. I never sobered up. Um, Wake up, just go right back at it. So I was drunk for 3 days, and I was hungover for just as many. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. So I'm not gonna do that anymore, man, because I was fucking dying, man. I mean, I was begging. I said, Lord help me. I promise I won't ever do that again. It was bad, man. I had a good time though. It was a lot of fun. I don't get mean, when I get drunk like I used to when I was younger. I was a redneck, man. I'd get drinking, and I was a happy drunk until somebody ran their mouth. I can't say I was mean. I was intolerant. I just, I wasn't very tolerant. Somebody said some shit off color or smarted off or picked on one of my friends or said some shit to one of the ladies around me. It's on. We're fighting. I'd be all over. But yeah, I try not to do that anymore. I'm getting a little old. I know, man. I'm trying to keep up, brother. I'm trying. I'm slow, going slow. So y'all keep the chat up, and I'll hit the questions when I get to them. Cranberry wine sounds damn good. I like mixing stuff too. Cranberry probably be a good thing to mix with. Elderberry is a really good thing to mix with different wines. Elderberry and blackberry makes a real good combo. Soldering is pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Just keep it's opposite of welding, you know. So uh, just keep the heat ahead of where you're going and follow with the solder instead of pushing it. So you know, and heat the fitting, not the pipe. You know, things like that. You'll learn, and as you go. I mean, when I first started doing it, it's horrible, but the more you do it, the easier it is. If you plumbed a couple houses, once you do that, man, it just comes second nature to you. Now it gets a little tougher when you solder in copper to stainless. You know, you don't have to, but you need to, probably should get some of that ruby flux and use that. Works real well. Yeah, hit that like button. I like that. I wish there was a like button for me to hit. What's that star for? I'm going to put a star on. I gave you a star. I don't know what that means and does. I better take it off because I hit something else. It might ban you. Yeah, I agree. Failure's the best lesson. It doesn't. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Is just clean your steel, waste a little electricity or gas. Definitely use water-based flux. Tinctures, essential oils. Gotta do it all. For me, I mean, the football steel comes with a thermometer. You see it right here in the head, and that just measures your vapor temperature. It gives you an idea of when the vapor is hot enough to be sending liquor into the condenser here and when you can expect to drip. That's about all it's going to tell you. Um, I'd rather have a thermometer on the water that's going into my condenser. That's the only thermometer I run is, well, the only thermometer I monitor. I have one on one of my elbows. It's just there. If you know, I might glance at it a time or two. Your vapor temperature is going to be less than your pot temperature because as soon as it boils off the pot and comes up and turns into a vapor, it's already starting to cool off once it hits this head, right? So your vapor temperature is always going to be a little lower than your pot temp. Your pot temp is going to be around 195 to 200 when you start boiling off some alcohol in that range. And you can get that from this chart. No, not that one, this one. This is your boiling point chart. Let me get this out of the way. And let me get the text thing out of the way there. So this is your boiling points. For the 10%, and this is percent, not proof. So this is 20 proof, right? 10%. For 10% alcohol with 90% water, it's going to boil at about 197 degrees. For about 18%, which is about what we can max at with our yeast, you're going to get a little bit about 100 mid 190s, 192. So 192 to 197 range is about when you can expect things. Now that's going to show your vapor temperature will be cooler than that. And you'll think, oh, well, I thought he said nothing happened at 190, 7 or 190 degrees. This is coming off the steel and it's only 185. Well, that's because that's vapor temp, not pot temp, because it does cool off. So a lot of people are trying to catch me up in things that's wrong, and I like that because it means they're listening and learning, and they're trying to prove me wrong. I love that because if you can, I want to learn too, and I've been wrong before. It's been a while. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm wrong often. Like if I tried to talk about how to polish rice, I couldn't. I'm sure there's a lot of people that could just sit and bullshit you and tell you 100 ways from zero how it's done. Brown rice is unpolished. All white rice has been polished. The small round rice has been polished the most. Good to know, brother. Everybody remember that. So use white rice with the yellow label. That's pretty much what I'd use anyway. It's the cheapest. But I wonder, let me find this chart again. Basmati, what color is basmati? Because that's the starchiest. Oh yeah, let me put the comments back up there. What's going on, Jeff? Yeah, I know. I'm about to catch up, by God. I don't know if I'm catching up. Everybody else just slowing down. I think it's a little bit of both. Fraggle's doing the time warp. That's funny shit right there. Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, the steels that we work, there's not a lot of pressure in them. You know, when you add a thumper, you're adding a little bit of back pressure. I don't know if y'all watched the show a few years ago. Mike and Jerry created all these damn jars. They had a whole thing of jar rigs. They must have had 20, 30 jars all the way around this thing. And they about blew that fucking steel up. They didn't realize that for every jar rig you add onto that, it increases the pressure exponentially. I don't mean huge amounts, but 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to, you know, and it continues to go up. I don't know. Don't quote me on the PSI. I'm sure it's much, much less than that, but similar. And it steps up. So by the time you got 40 or 50 damn jars like they had, it was crazy. It's a lot of comedy, guys. You got to understand that it's a show. They're looking for stuff to do. That sometimes it's comical. Sometimes they intentionally make mistakes just for the fun of it, so people can laugh and slap their knee and enjoy things and say, "I knew that would happen." You know, it's just a way to get people comment, but it created a lot of back pressure. So, but most of the steels just run a thumper or a three jar rig or something like that, 5 to 6 psi max. And regular steel without any of that just coming off, about 3 or 4 psi. Nothing, not a lot at all. So it doesn't take a seal being tightened down as hard, you know, to where it breaks. It doesn't. The rubber, you know, like Scott was talking, he doesn't have his putting his lid in. It doesn't have to because there's not enough pressure pushing it out to push it around the damn seal even. So it's not that much pressure. So grommets would probably work just fine as long as they were good and tight, and you might have to have something, you know, around there to help, maybe, you know, little liquid, something to help make it slide in there easily and keep a good seal. But yeah, grommets work well too on your buckets where your copper has to fit coming out and won't leak. Just put a little bit of lube on it and stick that copper through. And man, my phone's going crazy. People, make sure it's nothing important. I always worry. You hear it going and going and going and going. And, God damn, man, these phones pissing me off. I guess it just got to the point where everybody that I wished happy birthday is now seeing it. Friend request from a bunch of skanky internet hoes that put fake pictures up there. They're probably dudes from Bangladesh or some shit. Yeah, I guess it just cycles every once in a while. My phone won't get any kind of connection, even though it's sitting right next to the damn Wi-Fi. But Facebook will send that shit. Now I'm behind again. God damn it. Wild lettuce. Y'all crazy talking about that wild lettuce. I do want to read more about that though, because I had a friend of mine that that smoked some of that shit, and they found him naked in his yard, wandering around his yard naked. Okay, you can see him good. Well, then you can read them in, because some of I just saw Wayne come in here from Ozark. What's going on, Wayne? And also, I'd like to apologize to Wayne. I didn't notice that he'd commented last Friday, and he came on right at the very end, right as we was ending, and I didn't notice it. And I'd like to apologize. I shut down the podcast, and I didn't notice it until after I shut it down. I was like, fuck. So sorry, Wayne. Are you coming to Farm to Bottle? And see if y'all can see these comments over here in the live instead of just in your comments. You can see some cross posting from Facebook. And I'm behind again. Not too bad, 20 minutes. All right, down in the good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, you gotta love autocorrect, man. Lean forward about 2 foot. I mean, I can see him at 2 feet. That's the distance of my monitor. Well, let's see. That might be a little more than 2 feet. That might be about 2.5. But I do a lot of gaming, so this is my gaming. I'm up in there, man. I'm looking for people. I don't know, man. Some of these people, a lot of people cheating too. But don't get me started on that. Anyway, what makes vodka vodka? Good question. TTB standards, it has to be over 190 proof. It has to be distilled to 190 proof to be considered a vodka. It can be made from many different things: wheat, corn, potatoes. There's a lot of different things. So there's no specific grain it has to be made from. But it does have to be distilled to 190 proof, and then proof down to whatever you want it. But you got to take it up to 190 purity wise, and that's pretty much almost pure ethanol. So you're not getting a lot of flavor. That's why, I can easily tell people, like I did at the very beginning, I can make vodka that makes Tito's look like shit. And the reason being is I don't have to take my vodka to 190 and then proof it down with water and, basically dilute any flavor. I can take my, vodka that's technically not a vodka to 160 proof and proof it down a little bit and call it a vodka, and it's better than any vodka that you can drink. So, yeah, but I guess, if you technically do it to 190 plus, then that you can call it a vodka, just like a bourbon, has to be 51% corn, put in a new barrel, 2 years or older, 4 or older if it's going to be bottled in bond or some shit. And I mean, there's a lot of different rules. But you should, check Google TTB rules for different alcohols, and it'll give you the whole spiel on what all it takes to be a vodka. And I'm not sure if there's a limitation on what has to start out with, because I know they do it with wheat, potatoes, and corn. So I'm sure that they do it with a lot of different stuff as well. Good question. I know I don't miss much, and it lets me scroll through here quicker and get caught up faster. But I enjoy the hell out of y'all talking. I like getting in these conversations with you. Usually I'm coming in late, though. I'm going to try to do better. Yeah, it's easy to outdrink me on here now. Come to a festival. Come to a festival, sit with me and Wes. And then if you can do that, you got some bragging rights. I can tell you, old Wes, he's put away with me now. He can. He's a good guy. Welcome back, brother. I would say not at day 3 or 4, but if you do add bananas, make sure you add another fermenter because bananas will have a huge cap. I mean, generally it's not a good idea to step feed a mash or a must, but at day 3 or 4, I'd say to be fine to add some bananas, but puree them up and uh, and be expecting a huge cap. So it's going to overflow. I don't care what you put it in or how much space you leave. If you have a 20-gallon fermenter and you got 5 on the bottom, that be safe because those bananas, man, they have the biggest cap of anything I've done yet. They're huge, so be careful. What's up, Mash Brothers? No, purslane is what I was correct. I was trying to think of one last week, and I was talking about a little succulent leaf and had the red stem from it, but I couldn't come up with purslane. One of those things, it's just word. I know what it is, but I just can't come up with it. As part of my Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever, Parkinson's, old age, smoking too much weed. I mean, it's hard. I don't know. I'm not being diagnosed. That's my self-diagnosis, and that's what I'm going to say. If copper, if you could get copper BBs, that'd be fine. If it was pure copper, those would be perfect. The smaller, the better. Your vapor can still push up through the BBs and tumble them. Wouldn't be too much weight. So that'd work. But you can plantains or purslane. Now, a lot of people, when you say plantain, they're thinking like the banana that you've cooked the plantains. But this is this is a broadleaf plant that's a plantain. It looks a lot like a dandelion, but it's not. It don't have a flower. Well, it doesn't have a dandelion flower, but it's a big broadleaf plant leaf. The Chadmiral, what's going on, brother? They don't carry flavor through at all, man. Hardly at all. And they make a good wine and a good champagne. But if you after you've done them, there ain't hardly any sugar in them, so you have to use a lot of damn sugar, which was what makes it hot. You can infuse. You can get some of the strawberry. Uh, what they call it for the snow cone, the strawberry syrup. You can make your own. You can get the Vintners strawberry. You can buy strawberries and puree them up and boil up some water and mix it with a shitload of sugar and put the strawberries in there and cook it up, mix them all together, and make your own syrup and put that in an infuser and get a little bit of strawberry to carry over. But strawberry is a pretty delicate flavor, and it won't. It's like pear. It just doesn't want to carry over a lot. Nothing does hardly. But the more delicate, lighter tasting fruits, they just don't have that carry. So you're not doing nothing wrong. They just don't have that much flavor. And most people, the problem is when most people drink a drink like that, they hear everybody talk on the show. Oh, that watermelon crawl! Oh my God, I can taste that watermelon. It's knocking me down. They're lying. They're just saying that. It doesn't. It's hard to carry forward that flavor without infusions. So when they say that on the show and all this stuff and all these brandies, a true brandy, if you can tell what fruit it was made from, that's a damn good brandy. So if you can taste it and say, oh, I can taste a little peach in there, you're successful. If you can taste it and say, I get a hint of blackberry or blueberry in there, then you've made a successful brandy. Same with strawberry. So, but to get to that point, you really have to infuse. The expectations are so high on a lot of these things. People expect it to taste like a fucking mixed drink. All right, let's just put it like it is. So when they drink that, they're expecting it to be like fucking bam, knock you down because, well, a lot of people cheat when they make those and they've tasted some and it was really sweet and had that fruit flavor and it's like, wow, that's really good brandy. Well, that was post flavored. That's why it was like that. So, yeah, it's difficult to get that fruit to carry forward, and using infuser really helps a lot. Now, if you have a double or a triple rig infuser, it makes it even better because it just helps concentrate that flavor. So, yeah, absolutely. So you're not doing anything wrong. It's just it's really really light flavored, and it's tough to get it carried over. Damn, smoking a big brisket. I wish I was. I like it brisket rendered down though, man. There's a place here that I guess they take brisket and grind it up, make brisket burgers. That's supposed to be all heavy, heavy. Fucking heartburn city, man. It fucking they taste so good though because they're fatty as fuck. God damn, they give me a heartburn every time. I don't get a lot of heartburn, but man, them brisket burgers. And I guess that some bitch must have started out this big just to make a regular patty by the time it's done. But they're damn good tasting. I love them. I keep eating them even though they make me sick. Yeah, or root and bee wax. Yeah. Yeah, plantain. A lot of people think that's the like the little bananas, and that's different. Bill Clinton, knee slapper. Oh, that's funny. I guess you talk about when I was talking about how strong their marijuana is these days. It's crazy, man. It's strong as hell. Back in my when I was young, you know, average weed was probably 6. You know, shit weed was probably 4. You know, hemp nothing. But you know, 6, 8% was probably average weed. You know, killer Hawaii and all that probably 10, 12, maybe as high as 16 for the best weed that existed back then. Now 16 is just shit weed by today's standards. If it ain't 20, 30 or better, you know, they don't want it. And it's like, fuck, man, I like the days where I can just roll up a big fucking fatty, pass it around with my buddies and get high. Nowadays you do it fucking one hitter and you're like over in the corner fucking all grunged out, man, your stomach hurt. I don't know. It's different, man. This shit's fucking strong. And they've selectively bred it too to take out some of the things that I think were part of the high, because I think they're finding out now that it's not just not THC like we once thought that's getting us high. You know, there's THCAs and different numbers. And I need my boy in here to tell me all about this stuff. Uh, he worked at a couple of different marijuana growing places, and y'all probably know him by Gliz. I call him G Liz, but he's worked at a few processing places, and he knows a lot about that stuff and a lot about the different THCA, THC, and all the different um, chemicals and stuff, and how certain ones have been bred out. I guess certain chemicals have been bred out that they're finding now that may have been beneficial. So they're trying to get some of the old strains back to see if some of those might be medically beneficial for people. You know, I know for me, I definitely preferred the old weed to the new. I don't need anything that strong and concentrated, you know. But at the same time, I can't, you know, at my age, it kind of hurts my lungs to smoke a big fatty and pass that around. I can definitely, you know, feel it. I quit smoking cigarettes a long time ago, but, you know, after I'd go out and get drunk and smoke 2 packs, you know, I'd get that kind of feeling in my lungs and stuff, and from smoking a lot. And I get that too when I smoke fatties. So I probably, you know, probably better off with the concentrated stuff, just doing little one hits. But like, damn, little one hitter, man, it's like all you need. But I guess some of these younger people getting used to it. Maybe age, I'm sure, is playing a little bit of factor into that. Yeah, it'd be fine to ferment. I'd say as long as it's not real strong. I mean, I've even had some that were lightly of my wines that had a light vinegar odor, and that's a natural thing. Acetic acid is a natural byproduct of fermentation of fruits. I mean, it's just one of the organic acids I talk about. You'll hear me talk about that. There's citric acid. There's butyric, which is the one that makes it smell like puke, right? There's lots of different acids that are made during the fermentation process, which is one of the reasons we get the pH crashes in some of those high sugar ones, because it kicks it into overdrive on the acid production. It stresses the yeast, and stressing the yeast will increase your organic acid, manufacturing in the fermentation process. And I'm sure there's people that stress it certain ways when they're trying to create certain things, and congeners. Hell yeah, we do. Actually, I've been doing more damn brandies in the last at least 5-6 years than I've been in grain. I've been slacking on the grain. I've been making the hell out of wine. I mean, I didn't do a lot of wine and brandy early on. I really burnt myself out on grains and grain corn liquor. For the first 40 years I did it. So the last 10 years, I've been concentrating on more wines and brandies, and I'm digging it. I like wine. I didn't like wine so much when I was a kid. I never did like beer much, but I didn't like wine. But now I'm digging the wines, and it's cool to make a wine that you can drink and take to functions, and they're like, "Wow, who made this? What wine's this?" They think it's store bought, and they're like, "Wow, I need some more of this. Where can I get this?" And drinking my cherry wine, everybody's like, "Oh my God, I wish I could buy this in the store." So it's very rewarding, when people say that, and give you that kind of compliments. And they don't know, they just pick up a glass and drink it, and you pour them a glass. I put it in wine bottles, and they'll say, "Let me see that label again." Oh, well, it's just the bottle. It's not, you know but yeah, I love making wines. It's fun. Yeah, I was drunk through my 30s pretty much. I went for a good while though where I didn't drink anything. When my daughter was born, I quit drinking and smoking weed, and quit for quite a while until our mom took her, and then I started drinking and smoking again. Yeah, I did too, man. I did too. Well, I mean, we're still invincible. It just takes a few drinks for us to make us that way, right? That's how it works. Yeah, yeah, I know, man. Damn, I'm trying to highlight this. Won't highlight. Yeah, yeah. When they cremate me, they'll be like, "Hell, I was gonna put this out." Wildfire, man. I damn ain't gonna burn for days. Oh, that's funny shit. Yeah, I do the same thing. Lord, let me get past. I mean, that was a bad hangover though, man. That was 3 days. I was bad, bad, man. I was ready to quit drinking. At least that day, the first three of them. But yeah, it was bad. I even had a little bit on the fourth day. About halfway through the fourth day, I was feeling a little bit better and okay. But yeah, people think they're blocked. I get so damn far behind. I see what's happening now. If you notice the little slide bar, now I see what's happening. When you get to the bottom, it jumps back up again. So hell, I'm 10:33. I'm 30 minutes behind still. God damn. Yeah, baby. Yeah, same thing, brother. I guess I'm getting the anxiety now. There are some weeds, some marijuana that supposedly helps anxiety, and there's some that creates it. So, it's getting the right strain and finding the right strain, and that's where you need, medical advice and people in the industry that actually do it, like Gliz, for medicine and not just for high. Most everybody I grew it forever, we all did it for high. High is all about high. But I think I was self medicating as well. I've definitely had ADD and obsessive compulsive and ADHD and probably a few other things, and so it made, I know that we got some people in the militia. Damon, he can't smoke weed. It makes him sick. It makes him he can't do it. I don't know if it's an allergy or whatever, but he hates it. He can't smoke it. Says a few hits of it makes him sick, makes him feel terrible. So it's not for everybody, but again, different strains have different chemical compounds and different compositions, and they may be able to find something for you, and they may not. It may be just something you need to stay away from, for sure. But the strong stuff is nothing like what we smoked when I was younger. It's just not even comparable. It's definitely, yeah. It can definitely mess with your head for sure, especially today's strong stuff, man. I'm not just saying it, but it's totally different these days than what it used to be. Yeah, for sure. And now I figured out um, that's funny. Oh, that's funny as shit. I like to say that for the ones that accuse me. People come on sometime and think I Google every answer and that I don't know anything. I just Google it, and I'm past Basamati's. Why am I that far fucking behind? God bless. Yeah, Basamati might be one of your better ones to try if it's white polished. It on that chart that I've got. Now there may be some out there that are starchier and have more starch to break down. So do some research. That was just on that chart and the little bit of limited research I did that one night when somebody asked about it, because I wanted to know a little bit more next time somebody asked about it, but I still don't know how much to use. Yeah, some people can deal with it, some people can't, and it's a chemical reaction, and when you smoke, it sends a chemical to your brain, and our systems are designed to break down. They do see the THC, and it's just how our systems handle it. We've got trying to think of what they're called, receptors, THC receptors in our brains that can sense that, and our brains process it differently. But I definitely think today's marijuana is much 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 stronger than what was definitely fact than what was when I was younger. So I do worry about our youth smoking a lot of it, especially before their minds are developed. They used to say that about us, but we were only smoking 6%. Look what I'm forgetting. When I'm in my 60s. You don't want to be smoking this concentrated shit. When you get to your 60s, you'll be a vegetable, man. You'll be sitting there just drooling at your damn computer. So I wouldn't recommend it, And if you do, very very small doses, because it's very strong these days. It's just not for everyone. 3rd attempt. I'm sorry, Art. I thought I already said something about that. Yeah, the Digibosh column still. It's not a column. What I'm talking about is maybe you're talking about Digiboil. The Debosch is a cellar that had a column. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't understand. That's not a question. Yeah, I bought two of them. Yeah, they're great. I thought I already, but it wasn't Art Punk 444 that mentioned it the first time. Let me go back. I don't remember. I don't remember you saying anything, Art. Let me scroll back and see. I'm sorry if I missed it. Maybe it didn't post because I'm scrolling way back, and that's the first post I've seen from you, brother. But yeah, Dibos is who I bought mine from, and good customer service and good column. Yeah, it's good little column. I use both of them for parts and what I do. I don't use it. Oh, you did. You said just put it on top of a stock pot and you'll be fine. No, I totally missed that, and I might have missed whatever happened before that. I'm sorry. That's why I asked if I do miss something. I'm glad you repeated it. I didn't see the first and second time on that, but I did see your other comment as far as that goes. And yeah, Dibosh is fine. And there's a lot of sellers on eBay and on Amazon that sell the exact same column. So just just put in distilling column in eBay and it'll pull up Dibosh. That's just a seller. And you'll find a bunch that sell it. Sometimes the price is going to be a little higher or lower. Um, okay, rice is polished by machines that use a friction, often combined with water or fine dust, to rub off the outer bran layer of brown rice, creating a smooth, shiny, whiter grain. So most of your white rices are going to be polished through that system. Somebody sent me this. I didn't Google it. Somebody sent it to me, and I appreciate that. Um, Polishing machines contain screens, rotating stones, kind of like we were talking about the rock tumbler thing. And you can do that too when you malt grains. That little root that comes out, you don't want that in there. You don't want that on there. Those are very, very bitter. Even that little teeny root can make your mash very bitter, and that can carry over. That bitterness will carry over. So when it said screen tumblers, it made me think about that. Once you dry it, they'll darken a little bit and brown and become brittle. And once you roll them around together in a screen, you can break those little, what do they call them? I will show you in a minute. And now I'm not Googling. I'm looking for a picture I got in my, let me add it the right way. Let me add it through the StreamYard. I have a cross section of a corn grain, and it will tell me what that's called. Let me see, where is it? I know if I say that I won't be able to find it. Damn it. Why does that happen to me? I need to get more organized, brother. Definitely need to get more organized. Here we go. All right, so radical. That's what I was trying to think of. These little radicals. Once those little son bitches, that's about the size you want it. You really don't want to get it any longer than that. The reason being, I'm talking about the one on the longest tail that's called a radical. You don't want it getting any longer than that. Technically, the one to the left of that is about right, less than the length of the kernel itself. Once it gets the size of the one where it says radical pointing at it, you definitely don't want it going beyond that. Reason being, inside that kernel, you have natural amylases, right? That's why when you malt the grain, the malts will have the natural amylase available, whereas if it's with just a seed without malting, it's in there, but it's not available, nor will it ever be without a chemical process that happens only when it's soaked and malted. That's the chemical process. So it realizes that it thinks it's spring. When it gets all that moisture, it starts in the alurulon layer. I don't know how to pronounce it. On the outside, inside of that husk, but on the outside of the actual corn kernel itself, but not the husk. It's inside. It receives that moisture and it starts waking up, and then the endosperm, which is the starchy part of the corn itself, starts mixing with these natural amylase that's in there, and that's what gives it the energy to put the radical out, right? So the actual seed requires energy that it's not getting from the sun. Normally they get energy from the sun once they grow to a certain point, but they using all this stored energy in that grain to produce that radical. It's that same energy that produces alcohol, that same starch that gets converted to produce alcohol. And that energy gives off heat, and it's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And that energy is part of the fermentation process. It's given off. So, I guess if you had something that was really, really sensitive, you could pick up heat and light coming off fermenting grains, but it would take a really super powerful thing to see. But you can definitely tell the heat, the exothermic reaction for sure. But yeah, that little radical, once you dry that out, it'll turn brown, and you want to tumble it and get that little radical off there, because those things are bitter as fuck. Can only recommend the Digibosh column steel. It's not a column steel, it's just a column. And it's something you set on the steel itself. But yeah, they do fine. And Digibosh is just one of a dozen or so different Chinese and sellers, maybe some Pakistani, some maybe from India, different places that buy and sell these. I doubt very many of them actually manufacture a part that's on it, but they assemble them and sell them. Dibosh is, I think, I don't know who I got mine from, and I think that's on eBay. But yeah, again, they're reputable, and if you see them on there, you can order from them. And I think you can get the same thing from Fieldbilly. So yeah, I'd rather help Fieldbilly than yeah. Don't do it, Amir. I mean, if it's something that makes you feel there's no purpose in it. The only reason most people do certain things like that is because they enjoy it. It makes them feel good, right? If it doesn't make you feel good, don't do it. That's all there is to it. I know I smoked for a long time, and I got stung by a scorpion fish, and it about killed me. I was going into convulsions and everything. I about died. And after that, smoking weed made me sick as a dog, sicker than hell. So I quit. This was before my daughter was born. Well, actually, about a year before she was conceived, it did that. So it certainly helped me quit smoking, when she was born. But I quit drinking too. But yeah, that was one of the main reasons I quit smoking. It wasn't because of my daughter, it's because it made me sick to smoke. And if it doesn't make you feel good, there's absolutely no reason in hell to spend money on it. Go out there and do it if it doesn't make you feel good. The only time you should ever do anything like that is if it's a medicine that's helping something that's a lot more critical. And one of the adverse effects is it makes you a little anxious or hurts your stomach a little bit. But the cure is much more important than the nausea that may be caused by it. So if it doesn't make you feel good, don't do it. Smoke a cigarette or smoke something else, smoke some vape. Um, Depends on what you're making. I would definitely go with pot still for most things. Reflux for rums and vodkas when I want higher proof and I want to get some flavors out that I don't like. I definitely prefer reflux, but for most everything, I prefer pot still for the flavor. But yeah, I just recommend them here. If it doesn't make you feel good, don't do it. It's simple, man. Just say, doesn't make me feel good. If it did, I'd do it, but it's not making me feel good, so I'm not going to do it. But yeah, there are certain varieties that are known to help reduce anxiety. But again, it's probably not going to work for everybody. That's one of the things about it. And I'm just now catching up with Wayne came in. I'm 30 minutes behind, boys and girls. It's not my birthday. A lot of people say that. Smoke the wild lettuce or wild flocka. Yeah, man, that's what he smoked, that wild lettuce. Damn, I wish you make it, man. Gonna miss you. Yeah, I agree. Fuck Tito's. It's trash compared to what we make. Now, I say some of those bourbons, you know, that I drink, I'm not able to make anything quite that good yet. Maybe one day, but I'll still go out and overspend on a bottle from time to time and buy some good stuff and some, just good value stuff. Um, I just love bourbon, and I'm just now getting where I can barrel. I've done the stave thing for a long time, and that's okay. That makes it better, but still, it ain't Weller. It's just not. It's not the good stuff. So I drink a little bit of that or some top shelf stuff. Corn and oats is awesome. I had as far as don't do a lot of oats. Just throw maybe 5 or 10, maybe 5 or 10%. Um, you get up too much and it gets real gluteny, it gets real gummy and stuff. You made oats. Um, but yeah, I really like throwing a few handfuls in with every grain distill I do now. And I really, when I said I did a 3 grain, it'd be a 3 grain with a few handfuls of oats. And I do it just for mouthfeel as much as flavor. So I'm not putting a whole bunch in for flavor, even though it does add good flavor. I always just add a few handfuls in because it softens it and gives it a good mouthfeel and rounds it out. So that's the secret. But yeah, oats are good. There you go. And definitely, it's great for softening. It's not something I'd want to go heavy, but I've never done like an all oat or an all wheat or an all rye or an all barley. I've done all corn, but other grains I've never done 100% of. I've always just been corn and add a little bit of this, that, and the ratios, 50, 70% corn, the rest this, that, or this, that, 10 or 20% here and there. Done that for decades, but I've never really ever wanted to do an all rye because I'm not a big fan of rye. I like a little bit, but like a high rye or 100% rye, hell to the no. Um, so I've never really done an all other grain. I've not done a Scotch. So that's something that I am going to try, especially now that I'm a little more knowledgeable about different amylases that can help break down some of that gooey thickness that's, I worry about scorching if I were trying to distill. It's just thick and gooey and it doesn't break down. So now that I know there's enzymes that'll help break that down considerably, I might be willing to try, more higher percentages of grains. But with the oats, man, it's just few, 5 or 10% max. Usually a few handfuls, and I'm doing, mashes for 20 or 30 gallons, so I do a couple of keg runs or a couple of runs on my 18 and a half ever. I can do about 15, on that and probably about 13 on the keg. So You know, I always try to do a little extra so I can get a couple runs every time I do it. I love the sound of that. I know somebody else who might not, but hell yeah. I might wear my little Santa suit to the strip club this year. Be interesting. Although I've considered doing lots of things, but not all oats, but oats and blueberries, that'd be good. Soften that brandy up a little bit. And see, I get down to the bottom, that little thing shoots right the fuck back up. There it goes. Yeah, I agree, brother. You know, it's probably better to grow your own these days and intentionally not try to get it high. But even the seeds you get, it just, you know, I grew some and it was Girl Scout cookie and that shit was fucking 20+%. And it was rocky fucking world, man. But it was a big ass plant too. That was years and years ago. I quit growing it. It's so damn cheap now. I can buy it cheaper than I can buy the fucking. I can pay the electric bill. You know, hell, I can get ounces for $60 now. You know, fuck. No use in growing it anymore. You know, and it just is cheap. Damn sure can't sell it and make any money. You know, so I mean, once you consider all the nutrients, there's a shitload of nutrients that are expensive. You know, and keeping the hydro pumps going and worrying about that and missing vacations because you got to be at home 24/7, you know, caring for them. And, you know, even if you grow in soil, making sure the lights are on and all, you're sprayed and watered. And it's just for what it costs now, I'll never grow anymore. You know, it's just I can go out and buy ounces for $60 fucking dollars. That's killer. That's, you know, it's good or better than anything I grew. You know, proof or THC wise, you know, now flavor that Girl Scout pretty fucking good with that Durban poison in it, man. That shit, that was good. It was fire, but it fucked you up too, man. It got me nauseous, nervous, just the same. All right, I'm gonna scroll on past a lot of the weed talk. That's just everybody. What's going on, cowboy, down there in Mexico? Hope y'all doing good down there, brother. I didn't Google it. Somebody sent me it. Damn it. Somebody sent me it. Here, I'll share it with you. Let me just say, and you can see who shared it with me. Uno momento. Oh, shit. Close it all down. Fuck. What I do? Okay, here we go. All right, now let me share screen. If I can find where I do that. Fuck. Oh, there it is. Share screen. Which one do I share? Let's try this one. Yeah, this one. See, that was sent to me. I didn't Google this. This was sent in a pic. Well, it doesn't show it, does it? It doesn't show the Facebook. It was sent to me in Facebook pic, but it looks like this was straight from a Google, but I didn't Google it. I wouldn't lie to you, boys. But that's what was sent in a message. And now I'm not going to say who's seen it, but they are watching right now. And thank you for sending that. That saved me from having to Google it. Yeah, I can't do the edibles. I'm too well. I'll tell you the story about the edibles and why I'm kind of afraid to do them. When I was in college, I had a buddy of mine, and he grew weed, and well, we all kind of, and he was growing it, and we were talking about the ISO2 machines, that you could use to convert that using alcohol, pure grain or moonshine, high proof. You could use it to leach the alcohol out, and this would boil off the alcohol, and the residue would be oil, right? Hash oil. So that was the old way of doing it. Well, my buddy grew killer weed back in the day, and he had plenty to do it with. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll try it." So he used some bud instead of just leaf, and made some and brought it down. So put it in brownies, put this hash oil in brownies. So he brought it down, and he shows up at the house, and my ex was at work, and so we ate some brownie and went to the strip club, right? Hanging out there, drinking a little bit, and schwarping and shooting pool and watching the dances. And he started, man, I'm starting to feel funny, man. I don't know, man. Next thing you know, he's like, man, you might have to take me to the hospital. I'm like, let's get the fuck out of here. So we go back home, and he's like, man, you might have to take me to the hospital. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I was going to take you to the front door and shove your ass out and run, we're all paranoid, tripping and shit. I was tripping, it was very, very strong, and a lot of it. And I'm kind of tripping too. And I'm like, fuck. So we get home, and my ex is sitting there, bug eyed, and she'd eaten a brownie, and she knew it was a pop brownie, but it wasn't like your typical pop brownie that make you giggly funny. This shit rocked her ass. She's like, oh my God, those are strong, and she was feeling bad too. And I was just kind of enjoying it myself. I thought it felt pretty good, but they weren't. And so, I talk them both down, and Jeff goes up, and my buddy goes up and lays down, and he's like, fuck this. Later on, we all came down, and he's like, fuck that shit. I ain't doing no more of that, man. So he threw them away. So he threw it out in the dumpster. The next morning, I went out and looked, and there was a possum laid dead right next to the dumpster, had eaten, I don't know, a handful of them brownies, and it killed a fucking possum. Now, I don't know if you realize or not how much it takes to kill a possum. It takes a lot of poison to kill a possum. That motherfucker, it wasn't no playing dead. I tell that story before, and they're like, oh, it wasn't dead, it was just playing dead. And I'm like, no, that some bed was dead. I mean, it was doorknob dead. I mean, it was, yeah, crazy, man. That shit was strong. So, and I've done some gummies before, and it was just too much. And it's like, there's nothing you can do. It's like when you're smoking, you go, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to stop. I'm good. But when you eat, you got what you got. So, you never know. So if you get one that has 1,000 milligrams in it, you're fucked. You're rocked. Now there's some guys out there, Joe Rogan's show, that, what's his name, can sit there and eat them like candy. And that man's like in his 50s or 60s. That motherfucker eats them like candy. I think that dude might have been in what was that shit? It was on the end of my tongue there. What was that show on HBO with the mafia? The Sopranos. I think that dude actually might have been an actor in The Sopranos or something. But yeah, that dude can fucking eat gummies all day and not fucking rock him. But I'm really weird about eating them. Brother, I appreciate it. I enjoy getting on here and talking with everybody, having a good time. It's fun. We can all sit and drink and talk, and hopefully I can answer any questions, that people have. And I love it when they bring them. And, I enjoy being here, and I learn too. I learn a lot of things. Yeah, definitely. And that's something I'm learning more about. I don't have my book here, but I've got a book on, and I think everybody should buy it. I think everybody should own, especially survivors. Survivalist mentality, people that are thinking ahead and planning for harder times. You always be prepared. You don't want them times to happen, but you got to kind of plan for them because you don't want to come up and need something when the shit's done hit the fan and already blown through it, right? So finding good books on when the internet's down and finding a good book, hard book that you can take with you and read on edible plants in North America. You probably couldn't find a better book than that. Edible plants in North America and how to identify them. It's got pictures, lots of pictures. I think the gal that was in the Lisa knows her. Um, that was in Alone. That is a survivalist and does with herb things and maybe we'll do an herb thing on here sometime, and I'll try to get her to come on. I know Lisa knows a lot about herbs and stuff too. This lady wrote the book, and I've been wanting to do an educational thing. I know Mark and Lisa do one on Mondays, um, and that's pretty interesting. I guess I don't get a chance to do that. I do 3 podcasts a week, and I got a beautiful woman that requires my attention a lot of times, so I want to give her as much attention as I can. So I can't, a lot of people get mad. Oh, you didn't watch my stream. I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's just that I'm on here so much. I have to try to give her some of my time, my evenings. She's a good woman and she deserves it. And so I'm not able to watch their podcasts all the time, but I know they do talk about herbs and canning and a lot of that stuff. And it's, and Thursday, I don't know, not Thirsty Thursday, if the girls sit around and talk about that too. I've been on a few of those, and it's general chat, but I'm wanting to try to keep a lot of things educational and especially canning and herbs and stuff like that. So if they're not talking about that as much, maybe one of these free nights, we could get a podcast going, Mike, if you want to. And others that are very knowledgeable. It'd be great for people that are canning, doing a lot of canning and do a lot of preserves and another book to get to is the medicine, and identifying the plants and how to extract medicine, because you don't just tincture all of them. Some of them you dry them and smoke. Very few probably. Some of them you dry and crumble and make teas. Some you dissolve in alcohol and get the chemical out through, the extraction, and then evaporate the alcohol and have the resin left over. There's lots of different ways to get to the medicine in these plants, and knowing how to identify each plant and make medicine and what it's for be invaluable. Get them. Everybody that's listening, just get online and find a good, solid book. I'll try to find the one I got for the next podcast, if I don't forget, which I probably will. But get a nice book. Get one that's very illustrated, has pictures, close-ups for identification, because there's a lot of things that look a lot alike. There's one in particular, Devil's Lace versus what's the other one that's similar to Devil's Lace that's not bad at all. It's just a little white, fluffy plant, has a nice little white flower full of little teeny white flowers everywhere. I'm trying to think of the something's purse. What? Queen's Lace, Queen's Lace, or something like that. Does that sound right? Might probably know for sure. Let me scroll forward, and I'll scroll forward, and it keeps popping up. Oh, hey, I made it to the end. Yeah, we need to. All right, I'm back to I'm going to scroll back because I didn't have far to scroll down to hit that. But yeah, there's something called Devil's Lace, and then Queen Anne's Lace or something like that. Queen Anne's Lace. Yeah, there you go. And it looks just alike. And one of them, or what's the other one that looks just like it? That's extremely toxic. On the tip of my tongue. what's the one that's real toxic? Not the Queen Anne's lace, but the one that looks just like it that's extremely toxic. And, you know, one's beneficial, one's toxic as fuck and can kill you. You know, they say if you handling it can, you know, I don't know. I've heard people say, oh, you just handling it, it's going to kill you. You're going to die. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. All right, I'm going to have to Google it. Toxic. And it is called hemlock, poison hemlock. Damn, I couldn't think of that. But one's extremely poisonous, and in the same family as carrot. Yeah, the poison hemlock is an extremely poisonous plant in the same carrot family that can be deadly if ingested. Some people saying you just hold it, it'll kill you. Bullshit. I saw that on TV not long ago. I knew that motherfucker was full of shit line just to dramatize shit up. They do it on TV. But yeah, the one of them's used in floral arrangements, and one of them's used to kill people. You know, it's that fucking toxic. It's really bad. So the poison hemlock, and that's why you need to learn how to identify these things before you know, start trying to be an herbalist. And that's why these books are invaluable to help teach you the differences, and, you know, who to give that poison hemlock to and who not to. You know, shit, it's a fan. You got a group of bad people just, you know, wanting to take everything you own. Here, have our tea, you know, have some tea and drink. It's wonderful. You know, we're drinking it too. It's awesome. Bye-bye, bitches. So, yeah. But it is really, I think even if the shit doesn't hit the fan, I think it's good knowledge, and it's good knowledge to pass down to the youth, because the young people know nothing about farming these days, you know nothing about raising livestock these days, know nothing about canning and preserving, know nothing about fruits and vegetables and wild plants that you can eat, that and what you can't, the berries that you can't eat and can't eat, you know. Yeah, that poison hemlock, bad stuff. Yeah, somebody on TV, I don't remember what show it was, but, you know, somebody was holding it. They're like, "You're dead. You're as good as dead. You're gonna die. You held poison hemlock. You're gonna die. You just have to hold that stuff. It'll kill you." Yeah, it's fucking crazy shit. I hate it. These people talk. Then you get a lot in this shine industry too. Talk a lot of shit, and you can tell the first 5 or 10 words out of their mouth if they know what they're talking about or not. And, you know, I'd say 9 out of 10 of them that do that's never made the first drip of shine in their life too. But I still try to teach them, you know, and I'll correct them. They get pissed off, and that's okay. You don't have to like old Santa, but I'm not going to let you drink them heads forever. Afraid to use a pressure canner. I understand. They can be dangerous for sure. And those pressure, you know, those pressure gauges that you get from China these days, they, you know, but if you have a good pressure relief valve on there, which is important, you know, that a lot of pressure canners don't. But if you have a pressure relief valve on there, other than just the little steam thing that uses the weight and the gauge, but, you know, an actual blow off if it gets above 15, I think 15 psi, and that's about as high as they go. Mine, that's as high as mine goes, and so it'll go up to 15 psi, and anything 20 or over, I guess you can buy different pressure relief valves. But it's, then again, those can fail too, just like the pressure gauge. But yeah, it's definitely a risk. Maybe you should get one of them thin ones and just put a dent in it, and then when when it blows that dent out, it's time to turn the stove off. Right? Uh, yeah. Yeah, just put a big dent in it. When it blows that dent out, you know that pressure's getting up there. But yeah, I think everybody should though really get a book on edible plants in North America and medicinal plants in North America and how to identify them and make medicine and what it's for and what it treats. Because I mean, it'll you'll be a very valuable person if you can go out in the woods and help people forage. They'll be following you, man, because they don't know. You'll be the one that puts food in their bellies. They will fight to keep you alive. You're the one that makes the whiskey. You make the moonshine. You bring home the bacon and the food. You know how to hunt. You know how to make medicine. You keep them alive. You keep them fed. They'll keep you alive. You will be the king. So it's definitely a good thing to know, and it's invaluable. Yes, it is. It's about time to get off here. We're going to do another midnight run. We went to midnight. I can't believe I posted the wrong link on those. Nobody will be able to see it, but we did a midnight run on Wednesday. But yeah, let's go ahead and do a sippy sip and say goodbye. We've been on 345. It's a good amount. I won't. All right, I will say. Let me hit your. That's good stuff, man. Yeah. You deleted your server with all of your info on it? Holy shit, man. That's why, I mean, I don't know a lot about Discord. I don't fuck with it a lot. I mean, I'm just now figuring out how to receive and send a message on there, but I have my own server. My daughter helped me set up, but I don't know shit about it on there. I use it for game chat, and that's about it. So, um, yeah, a little plastic pressure relief button. Yeah. Yeah, kind of like a turkey. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to have. Cheers. All right, everybody. It's great. All right. Oh, yeah, we'll have an announcement. I'm leaving for Farm to Bottle Thursday. So Wednesday night, I'm going to be getting everything ready for that. So I won't be on here Wednesday at all. Saturday, I will try. I'm not going to make any promises. We may do a shit show live. I have to talk to Phil Billy and Damon on that because I know that they didn't do one this Friday. And we got to resolve all those issues and get back to doing that. I know a lot of people are disappointed and wondering why. A lot of people enjoy watching it. But we'll definitely try to get on there Friday or Saturday and do a live stream of some sort. It probably won't be a Q&A. I'm going to be doing Q&A at Farm to Bottle where I get live. So I won't have no Google Live, will I? So come ask questions if you want to, if you're there. And Thai gin, that just caught my eye. Thai gin. You want to talk about that, Chadmer? But definitely come back. The newcomers, we're not going to be here Wednesday or this Saturday. We're usually here every Wednesday and Saturday. I hardly ever miss unless I just feel real bad. That's only been once or twice in a year. So we're here for the newcomers. Anytime that you want to come on here and ask your questions, we're here Wednesday and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we'll go usually to about 10 or 11, sometimes 12 if I'm drinking. And it's a Saturday. So, but enjoy having everybody on here, especially the newcomers. Chadmiral, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that Thai gin. For those that are new, be sure to hit the like and follow there on YouTube and in Facebook. Come over to Facebook and check us out on the Moonshine Militia on Facebook. We've got a group together, good group of people. You can ask your questions in there as well. And I know a lot of people have groups that they can go to, but just this week I witnessed two different groups. I'm not going to mention them. They're friends groups, but they're letting some of their members belittle people for asking beginner questions. And that's one of the primary reasons that we created the Moonshine Militia, was to eliminate a lot of that shit, because we saw that shit years ago, and we want new people to be able to answer questions and not get browbeaten and laughed at by people that had the same fucking questions just a year or two prior, right? So they had those questions. It's okay, for them to ask the questions, and they didn't want to be picked on or bullied or laughed at. But by God, after they got a year or two in them, now they all authorities, and they're going to laugh at everybody that had the same fucking question they did. So that really bothers me on several levels, in case you haven't noticed. So that's one of the reasons we created the Moonshine Militia, and another reason why we do the podcast, and Phil Billy does his videos, is to just help educate, and help people learn, and make it fun. Phil Billy makes it fun. He does a lot of different things. I mean, he'll do Rice Krispies, Fruit Loops, about any damn thing you ask him to do, he'll try. He'll even distilled his own piss once. So he did a Bear Grylls, And so it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we want to make it fun. We want to make it something people enjoy, and something that be a good hobby, and something that they can share with their friends and family, and have a good drink and enjoy making some wine together and all different things. It's a lot of fun. So if you haven't already, like, subscribe on that YouTube Phil Billy channel, on the Moonshine Militia channel. Come to Facebook, join us on the Moonshine Militia, and join the. I have a DIY shining stuff side as well on Facebook, and we do a lot of talking there too. So join them both. But also, I will ask, and I don't ask often, but if you look at the very bottom of this, you'll see that this is broadcast from the Distilling 101. That's my page that I distill, that I basically um, stream to, and I'm trying to get enough people on there. So the more people I get on there that follow, I guess you have to do the follow thing, and it's not easy. You can't just like it. You have to actually hit the little three dots. I don't know why Facebook makes it so difficult, but you have to hit like the three dots and actually hit the follow. But the more followers I get on the reels, on the Facebook reels, the little short videos and stuff. They'll show a little short of me, and it just helps people, come to the channel and gets more people involved. And that's what we want. We want people learning the right way and learning the right thing, and to come in and enjoy the hobby and not be made fun of, laughed at, and belittled, and treated badly like they do in a lot of places. So, we're all very big on that. We want people to enjoy themselves and have fun. A little bit of drama from time to time, and that's going to happen, but we try to keep that all to a minimum as well. Absolutely. Happy birthday, Dixon Mayaz. Hope you have a good birthday today, buddy. I hope you have a good birthday to Dixon. I like that name. Anyway, good seeing everybody. Everybody tune in. Hopefully Saturday or Friday we'll have a live from the festivals. This just happens on the festivals that I go to. I'm not going to be able to. I think there's one at Beattyville, maybe a few weekends from now, that's going to be on a Saturday. Not sure if I'll be back Saturday night for that. I may be at a little after party after the festival. If I don't hang out at the after party, may start the stream a little later, maybe a 9 or 10 o'clock start point. But that's just if I'm bored and not too drunk to figure out how to get it done. But so we'll miss y'all for a little bit. But if I get my shit, we're camping, of course, this weekend. So if I get everything together, I will do the Wednesday stream, but I'm not going to make any promises at this point. I'm going to say no. But if we get everything together and I get everything done and ready, then yeah, I'll be here Wednesday, but for sure not Saturday. But till then, yeah, you can check on the Moonshine Militia if you're on there. I'll make a post about whether I'm going to be able to do it on Wednesday or not, and if not, then we will see you next weekend. Until then, everybody have a great weekend, what's left of it, and stay safe and shine on. Love y'all, and see you hopefully Wednesday. If not, next Wednesday. Have a good one.